Chapter 2461. Lan Qingyin proudly glanced at the crowd and then haughtily retracted her gaze. She wanted to let everyone know that even if she, Lan Qingyin, failed miserably this time, her talent and potential were not to be underestimated. Among the cultivators present, many of them had been defeated by her. Lan Qingyin is the young lord of the Lan clan and the inheritor of the Rainbow Pearl. Her ability is not to be underestimated. Bailey Hongzhuang hasn't made any moves until now. Looks like in this aspect, Bailey Hongzhuang is not Lan Qingyin's opponent. Lan Qingyin has been famous for a long time. Moreover, I heard that every time, the Lan clan's Rainbow Pearl possessor is a genius. This is the reason why the Lan clan has always been standing strong. Everyone shook their heads and sighed. The wind had changed a lot. Previously, Lan Qingyin was bullied so badly that no one felt anything. Now that they thought about it carefully, Lan Qingyin was ultimately not an easy person to deal with. After Lan Qingyin turned the tables, the Lan clan's cultivators who were originally covered in dirt all revealed smiles. This was the glory that belonged to their Lan clan. Look at how proud Lan Qingyin is. If Hongzhuang wasn't in this state, she would definitely be stronger than Lan Qingyin. Shangguan Yingying looked at Lan Qingyin unhappily. Normally, she couldn't stand Lan Qingyin's arrogant and proud look. That was why she was in conflict with her. Every cultivator who participated in the battle for deer chasing was a powerful cultivator. Only Lan Qingyin was unbelievably arrogant. When Xiren patted Shangguan Yingying's shoulder, "Why are you angry with her?" Based on her situation, no matter how good her performance is now, she won't have good results in the battle for deer chasing. Moreover, Hongzhuang hasn't even started to perform. Hearing this, Shangguan Yingying nodded her head in satisfaction. She felt that Bailey Hongzhuang must be fated with the primal chaos tablet for her to be able to enter this state. Otherwise, why couldn't others enter this state? Lan Qingyin proudly turned around to look at Bailey Hongzhuang and was prepared to mock her. However, she saw that Bailey Hongzhuang's gaze was fixed on the primal chaos tablet, as if she didn't even notice her existence. Lan Qingyin couldn't help but frown. She had been sitting at the back and didn't know that Bailey Hongzhuang had already entered this strange state. "Stop pretending. I'll see when you can comprehend it." Lan Qingyin coldly snorted and then turned around to continue comprehending the primal chaos tablet. She wanted to regain all the dignity that she lost. After Di Beichun and Mo Yunjua saw that Lan Qingyin was also enlightened, they sighed in their hearts. Bailey Hongzhuang and Lan Qingyin could be said to be destined enemies, but in their eyes, no matter how good Lan Qingyin was, she could not be compared to Bailey Hongzhuang. When the three beasts saw this scene, they couldn't help but feel anxious. They didn't want their master's limelight to be stolen by Lan Qingyin. This was something that they had painstakingly snatched back. How could they let it be snatched away? It was a pity that their master had entered this state, and they didn't know when she would regain her senses. Bailey Hongzhuang walked forward aimlessly. She found that as the power of the stars continued to pour in, the power from the primordial chaos ring was getting stronger and stronger. She could have broken through long ago, but this power had been accumulating. Chapter 2462. Right now, Bailey Hongzhuang was like a traveler in the desert who had finally found her way. No matter what was in front of her, she had to go and investigate. Bailey Hongzhuang immediately quickened her footsteps and kept getting closer to the front. She wanted to know what was in the primal chaos tablet that attracted her. This was a very long journey. Even though Bailey Hongzhuang had already used her fastest speed, she still walked for a very long time. Finally, Bailey Hongzhuang saw a ball of dazzling light in front of her. The moment she saw this light, Bailey Hongzhuang understood. In front of her was a dazzling rainbow light. It was like a rainbow god pearl. It was dazzling and exceptionally dazzling. Bailey Hongzhuang suddenly understood why she would see such a star. It was because these stars were also dazzling with rainbow light. Could it be that the rainbow god pearl and the primal chaos tablet were related? Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes flashed with deep astonishment. All along, she only knew that the rainbow god pearl could help cultivators increase their cultivation speed and increase their strength. As the Lan family's heirloom, Bailey Hongzhuang had always felt that the rainbow god pearl was extremely mystical. Only, she had never thought much about the reason. She only thought that the Lan family was blessed by the heavens, which was why they had such an heirloom. If I can't enter this world, then can Lan Qingyan also enter this world? Bailey Hongzhuang couldn't help but think. Lan Qingyan had snatched away her rainbow god pearl. Now that she was the owner of the rainbow god pearl, she should be able to come here too. Looks like there was really an ill-fated relationship between them. Bailey Hongzhuang looked at the huge ball of light in front of her. It was like a rainbow god pearl that had been magnified countless times. Her heart was filled with emotions. Suddenly, a surge of energy shot from the huge ball of light onto her body. Bailey Hongzhuang immediately discovered that this was an extremely familiar power. It was exactly the same as the power of the rainbow god pearl, but it was much stronger than the power of the rainbow god pearl that she possessed. The mysterious power intertwined with the rainbow divine pearl in Bailey Hongzhuang's body, and the rainbow light spun around her like ribbons, making it hard for people to see clearly. Under this huge force, Bailey Hongzhuang could not resist at all. She could only accept it passively. 7-colored energy flowed through her body and finally gathered on her 7-colored divine pearl. Gradually, she discovered that the power of the rainbow divine pearl in her body was constantly increasing and sublimating. It was as if it had met its main body and was rapidly growing. This discovery made Bailey Hongzhuang exclaim endlessly. Could this be the secret of the Lan family's inheritance? Was all of this related to the Primal Chaos Tablet? Bailey Hongzhuang didn't know how Lan family's #1 person obtained the Rainbow God Pearl, but she was incomparably certain that person definitely had a huge connection with the Primal Chaos Tablet. Maybe this Primal Chaos Tablet was placed here by the Lan family. Bailey Hongzhuang closed her eyes and calmly absorbed this energy. She knew that this energy was extremely beneficial to her. It could even shorten the time she needed to go to the Lan family. However, just as Bailey Hongzhuang was calmly cultivating, the cultivators in the hall felt a vigorous energy explode from Bailey Hongzhuang's body. Chapter 2463. Ever since Bailey Hongzhuang arrived at the hall, there had been no movement. Almost everyone present had achieved a breakthrough in their cultivation except for Bailey Hongzhuang. Now that they knew that Bailey Hongzhuang's cultivation was only at level 4 of the Blue Realm, everyone's expression became a little more interesting. Previously, when Lan Qingyan broke through, everyone knew that she had broken through from level 7 of the Blue Realm to level 8 of the Blue Realm. Almost everyone thought that Bailey Hongzhuang's strength was on par with Lan Qingyan's, or even slightly stronger than Lan Qingyan's. However, this aura could not be faked. Bailey Hongzhuang was actually so much weaker than Lan Qingyan. Since there was such a huge difference in their strength, how did Bailey Hongzhuang defeat Lan Qingyan? For a moment, everyone could not figure it out. Bailey Hongzhuang's cultivation is only at level 4 of the Blue Realm, but why was there such a huge commotion when she broke through? I don't know. The fluctuation was a little shocking, but her cultivation is indeed at level 4 of the Blue Realm. I really can't figure it out. Could it be that Bailey Hongzhuang's combat strength is much stronger than her cultivation? No matter how much stronger she is, she can't possibly defeat a cultivator who is 3 or 4 levels stronger than her, right? Everyone shook their heads. Although it was possible to fight with someone who was at a higher level, it was impossible to do so if the level was too high. However, there were many cultivators present who had fought with Bailey Hongzhuang before, so they did not find it strange at all. Bailey Hongzhuang has the blood aura. It's normal for her to fight with someone who is at a higher level. A young master from an aristocratic family said slowly. When he had fought with Bailey Hongzhuang, he had seen Bailey Hongzhuang use the blood aura. He had also found it unbelievable. However, after knowing that Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichen were a couple, he felt that this matter was much easier to accept. As soon as this was said, the cultivators who were unaware of the situation could not help but widen their eyes. This news was too shocking. The elemental energy in the surrounding air surged madly towards Bailey Hongzhuang's body. The dense elemental energy was so dense that it seemed to have solidified as it continuously poured into her body. When Lan Qingyan saw Bailey Hongzhuang's breakthrough, she couldn't help but widen her eyes. This situation was really shocking. Even when she broke through to the 8th level of the Blue Realm, there wasn't such a terrifying movement. Why was Bailey Hongzhuang's breakthrough so strange? The weirdest thing was ever since she took a step forward, every time she turned back to look at Bailey Hongzhuang would look at the tablet with a burning gaze as though she had never shifted her gaze. Although she didn't know what had happened, she had a bad feeling in her heart. Boom! Bailey Hongzhuang's breakthrough speed was very fast. In the blink of an eye, she had broken through to Blue Realm Level 5. After that, Bailey Hongzhuang continued to stare at the tablet as though nothing had happened. Even Di Beiqin and the others couldn't help but feel puzzled after seeing this situation. They didn't know what kind of strange state Bailey Hongzhuang had entered, so they couldn't determine what was going on. 3 days later, Bailey Hongzhuang broke through again. Her cultivation level had broken through from Blue Realm Level 5 to Blue Realm Level 6. After witnessing Bailey Hongzhuang's breakthrough speed, everyone was shocked. They didn't expect Bailey Hongzhuang to increase her cultivation level by 2 levels. She had surpassed everyone's cultivation speed. In the blink of an eye, there were only 10 days left until the end of the Battle of Zhuolu. Chapter 2464. With these 6 identity tablets, plus the 3 identity tablets they obtained the first time, Di Beiqin and Mo Yunjue obtained a total of 9 identity tablets. Looking at the two's gains, everyone was envious. This time, the strongest person in the battle of vying for the throne would definitely be Di Beiqin and Mo Yunjue. Not only that, when Ziren and the other talented cultivators also successfully crossed the first step. From this situation, everyone could determine the difference between the inheritors and normal cultivators. This was because those who successfully comprehended were mostly inheritors. However, there were also some talented cultivators who successfully comprehended. On the second day, after Di Beiqin and Mo Yunjue successfully comprehended the second picture, Lan Qingyan also successfully took a step forward. Lan Qingyan felt that comprehending the Primal Chaos Tablet was much easier than comprehending other things. Originally, she thought that her comprehension speed was already fast enough. She didn't expect Di Beiqin and Mo Yunjue's comprehension to be so high. Although her heart was unwilling to admit it, Lan Qingyan also understood that Di Beiqin and Mo Yunjue's status was so high. It was really inseparable from the two people's cultivation talent. Luckily, the other cultivator's speed couldn't be compared to hers. This made her feel better. After all, she was the only girl who comprehended to such a degree. As for Bailey Hongzhuang, she couldn't be bothered to find out what kind of state Bailey Hongzhuang was in. At least, she hadn't comprehended anything yet. There were only 7 days left. Once the time was up, Bailey Hongzhuang would have no chance. Originally, she didn't have a single identity tablet, but now she obtained 9. Although her results weren't outstanding, at least she wouldn't be at the bottom anymore. The 3 beasties and Di Beiqin couldn't help but worry when they saw Bailey Hongzhuang immersed in such a state. Logically speaking, with Bailey Hongzhuang's perception, comprehending the Primal Chaos Tablet shouldn't be a problem. Bailey Hongzhuang had already obtained quite a number of identity cards. Coupled with the identity cards she had obtained here, her ranking was definitely quite high. However, if Bailey Hongzhuang was always in this state, she would miss this opportunity. No matter what, Hongzhuang being able to raise her cultivation by 2 levels here is not bad. Bailey Hongzhuang's gentle voice was filled with a little sigh and helplessness. Although the result was a little unsatisfactory, compared to the others, Bailey Hongzhuang still gained a lot. I'm just curious about what kind of state Hongzhuang has been in all this time. It seems to be different from the state Xiaohe and Xiao Bai were in previously. According to Xiaohe and Xiao Bai's description, they had entered a state of enlightenment. It was like being enlightened. Their cultivation had opened up a whole new world. That was why they had broken through so smoothly. If Bailey Hongzhuang was also in enlightenment, this enlightenment time was a little too long. Also, logically speaking, enlightenment should be withdrawn when a cultivator breaks through. Bailey Hongzhuang had already broken through twice, but she didn't seem to have any intention of withdrawing from this state. So it shouldn't be enlightenment. I feel an aura similar to the primal chaos tablet from Hongzhuang's body. Di Beichen's deep eyes flashed with a light of thought. His voice was heavy and hard to fathom. Chapter 2465. Hearing Di Beichen's words, Shangguan, Yingying, and Xiren's eyes were filled with astonishment. Similar aura to the primal chaos tablet? That's not possible, right? When Xiren's face was filled with disbelief. What kind of existence was the primal chaos tablet? Even if Bailey Hongzhuang had entered a strange state, she shouldn't have the same aura as the primal chaos tablet, right? However, after hearing Di Beichen's words, Emo Yunjua nodded with a serious expression. I have the same feeling too. Once he said that, everyone couldn't help but look at each other. Since Di Beichen and Emo Yunjua had the same feeling, then it couldn't be wrong. Lan Qingyin originally wanted to eavesdrop on what Di Beichen and the rest were saying. However, Di Beichen and the rest were obviously guarding against her, so she couldn't hear a thing at all. Unknowingly, it was already the end of the Battle of Zhuolu. Tomorrow was the time for everyone to leave. Di Beichen and Emo Yunjue finally succeeded in reaching the third step on the last day, and once again obtained 9 identity tablets. The two of them seemed to have telepathy. Every time they comprehended, it was at the same time causing everyone to be speechless. However, they also knew that it was impossible to determine a winner between the two of them. Lan Qingyin's progress was already unable to keep up with Di Beichen and Emo Yunjue. She only hated that she didn't have enough time. If only she had a few more days, she would have 9 more identity tablets and completely overturn her original disadvantage. Unfortunately, there wasn't enough time. At this time, Lan Qingyin still glared fiercely at Ouyang Etian, who was in the second row. She would never forget how Ouyang Etian had abandoned her. When she returned to the Lan family, she would settle the score one by one. After Ouyang Etian felt Lan Qingyin's glare, he didn't have any thoughts of responding. He really wasn't worried that the Lan family could do anything to their Ouyang family. Beichun, Hongzhuang still hasn't recovered from that state. The Battle of Zhuolu is going to end tomorrow. What should we do? Shangguan Yingying looked at Bailey Hongzhuang worriedly. They never thought that Bailey Hongzhuang would be with her until now. Now, most of the cultivators had already taken a step forward, but Bailey Hongzhuang still remained in the periphery. Speaking of which, this was truly a terrible situation. Di Beichen furrowed his brows and pursed his thin lips. There's nothing we can do when the Battle of Zhuolu ends. Everyone will appear in the center of the Battle of Zhuolu, and Hongzhuang's state will be forcefully interrupted. This was the setting of the Battle of Zhuolu for many years. No matter what the cultivator was doing, as long as it was time to end, everything would stop. When Xiren sighed, I hope Hongzhuang can wake up today. Otherwise, who knows what kind of effect it will have on Hongzhuang if it's forcefully interrupted. Gu Zhiqin was also worried, but this kind of thing was completely beyond their scope of understanding. That night, many cultivators couldn't help but feel impatient. In their minds, they were constantly thinking about their ranking based on the number of identity cards they had obtained. Tomorrow was the end of the Battle of Zhuolu. Even if they worked hard to cultivate tonight, they wouldn't be able to make much progress. Xiao Bai Shi, do you think Master really won't wake up today? Xiao He frowned. It was really unwilling to give up such a great opportunity. Chapter 2466. It was already late at night, but the main hall was still bright. Just as everyone was either cultivating or bored to death, suddenly, a shocking aura exploded from Bailey Hongzhuang's body. Feeling this shocking aura, everyone's gaze couldn't help but be attracted to Bailey Hongzhuang. In this 1.5 months, Bailey Hongzhuang has already broken through 2 levels. Is she going to continue breaking through? I really don't understand what Bailey Hongzhuang is doing. She hasn't made any progress in comprehending the tablet, but her cultivation speed is extremely shocking. I really don't understand. I feel that comprehending the tablet will increase our realm, but it doesn't completely help our cultivation. Why is Bailey Hongzhuang's performance so different from ours? No matter what, I'm really envious. The cultivators were all discussing. At their current cultivation level, it wasn't easy to increase their strength by 1 level. However, in a short 1.5 months, Bailey Hongzhuang's strength increased by 3 levels. How could they not be envious? Lan Qingyin's expression became complicated when she saw that Bailey Hongzhuang was about to break through again. She was only at Blue Realm level 8, but Bailey Hongzhuang was about to break through to Blue Realm level 7. Previously, there was a difference of 4 levels between them. Now it was rapidly shrinking. In addition, Bailey Hongzhuang had the blood aura field. She was afraid that she would have to be more careful if she fought with Bailey Hongzhuang head-on. For the first time, Lan Qinyin felt a strong sense of threat in her heart. Bailey Hongzhuang had now become an existence that could threaten her. This wasn't a good thing. Di Beichen and the rest smiled when they saw that Bailey Hongzhuang was about to break through again. This was extremely good news. When dawn was about to arrive, Bailey Hongzhuang finally broke through to Blue Realm level 7. Bailey Hongzhuang slowly opened her eyes. There was still a rainbow light flowing in her eyes, but it disappeared in the blink of an eye. Hongzhuang, you're awake. Shangguan Yingying immediately noticed Bailey Hongzhuang's movements. She had been counting the time, hoping that Bailey Hongzhuang would wake up soon. Yingying. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled and couldn't help but stretch. She had been in the same position for such a long time that her body was a bit stiff. Hongzhuang, it's great that you're awake. The Battle of Zhuelu is going to end tomorrow. We were really worried that something might have happened to you. Shangguan Yingying breathed a sigh of relief. As long as Bailey Hongzhuang could wake up, everything would be fine. Wife, how are you feeling? Di Beichun turned to ask Bailey Hongzhuang. I'm fine. Sorry for making you worry. Bailey Hongzhuang's lips curved into a faint and calm smile. She didn't expect that she would wake up on the day when the Battle of Zhuelu was about to end. In fact, she didn't even know how long she had been in the vast starry sky. She was immersed in the changes in the Chaos Ring and the Rainbow Pearl. Now that she was out, she realized that time had passed quickly. Seeing that Bailey Hongzhuang's face was rosy and didn't look uncomfortable at all, Di Beichen and Mo Yunjue were relieved. Chapter 2467. If it was before, Lan Qinyin had no choice but to be afraid of Bailey Hongzhuang and the others due to her isolated and helpless situation. But now that the Battle of Zhuelu was about to end, the Lan clan would come to welcome her once the Battle of Zhuelu ended. By then, she wouldn't need to be afraid of Bailey Hongzhuang and the others. Therefore, Lan Qingyin's current confidence was sufficient. Hearing Lan Qingyin's words, Shangguan Yingying and the others couldn't help glaring at Lan Qinyin. Lan Qinyin definitely touched the pot that didn't boil. During this period of time, they couldn't help but feel sorry for Bailey Hongzhuang. If she hadn't fallen into that strange state, Bailey Hongzhuang's current comprehension level would definitely not be worse than Lan Qingyin's. The three beasties looked at Lan Qinyin with disgust. This woman was really annoying no matter what time it was. Bailey Hongzhuang then shifted her gaze to Lan Qinyin. Her exquisite, jade-like face revealed coldness and indifference. Lan Qinyin, I didn't expect you to like paying attention to me so much. Once these words came out, Lan Qingyin's face couldn't help but stiffen. She then snorted coldly. Don't flatter yourself. I just saw that you were so arrogant before, but now you only have this result. I think it's funny. Bailey Hongzhuang's lips curled up slightly and asked in return, who told you that I only have this result? Lan Qinyin was left speechless by this question. At this time, could it be that Bailey Hongzhuang could still make comeback? Bailey Hongzhuang had just woken up, and she was already in a conflict with Lan Qinyin. Everyone was happy to see this and wanted to know who would gain the upper hand this time. In my opinion, Lan Qinyin and Bailey Hongzhuang will continue to fight in the future. I'm afraid the enmity between these two people is a dead knot that can't be untied. Actually, I think this is pretty good. Usually, there isn't any girl who can challenge Lan Qinyin. But ever since Bailey Hongzhuang appeared, this is the first time I've seen Lan Qinyin make a fool of herself in public. Do you still remember Lan Qingyin's attitude when she saw Di Beichen? I'm afraid there's already a grudge between these two women, and the reason is Di Beichen. No matter when, the gossipy hearts in everyone's hearts could not be dispelled. In the midst of these discussions, the love triangle between Lan Qingyan, Bailey Hongzhuang, and Deep Beichun had already been vividly imagined by everyone. TSK, Bailey Hongzhuang, don't force yourself. I know it's hard for you to accept this result, but you look really pitiful when you pretend to be fine. Lan Qingyan shook her head and looked at Bailey Hongzhuang with pity. The ridicule in her eyes became more and more obvious. Hearing Lan Qingyan's arrogant and haughty words, many people present couldn't help but frown. These words were really unpleasant to hear. Lan Qingyan, don't tell me you want to die in this battle for the deer. Di Beichun's deep eyes were filled with a bone-chilling light. The threat and warning in his words couldn't be more profound. Hongzhuang had just woken up, and he hadn't properly cared about Hongzhuang's situation. This Lan Qingyan had already started to ridicule him time and time again. Did she treat him as if he didn't exist? Following Di Beichun's words, the cultivators present couldn't help but suck in a breath of cold air. Di Beichun's words were really domineering. Chapter 2468. Although Lan Qingyan's strength was not bad, in front of Di Beichun, Lan Qingyan was definitely not his opponent. Just as Di Beichun had said, as long as Di Beichun wanted to take Lan Qingyan's life in this battle of Zhuolu, Lan Qingyan would not be able to survive until the moment she left. After hearing Di Beichun's words, the originally arrogant Lan Qingyan's face couldn't help but turn ashen. She could only swallow the words that she was about to say. She could only glare angrily at Di Beichun and Bailey Hongzhuang. Now that the other party had the advantage in numbers, she was no match for them. Hence, she could only swallow her anger. Sure enough, a slut who doesn't listen to a more straightforward warning thinks she's so great. Shangguan Yingying looked at Lan Qingyan's face that had turned black from holding back her anger. She could not help but smile. Recently, this Lan Qingyan was like a housefly, always buzzing around people's ears. It was so annoying. Di Beichun has become more and more powerful recently. Xiaohei's eyes sparkled with worship. Di Beichun's words had extinguished all of Lan Qingyan's arrogance. If Master did not want to personally finish off Lan Qingyan, Di Beichun would have already taken Lan Qingyan's life, Bai Shi said lazily. Some deep grudges could only be resolved with one's own hands. The reason why Di Beichun had tolerated Lan Qingyan was because of this. Only when Hongzhuang defeated Lan Qingyan in front of everyone in the Lan family and gave those Lan family members who were optimistic about Lan Jingquang's family a slap in the face, would it be time for Bailey Hongzhuang's family to regain their dignity. Seeing that Di Beichun was so protective of her, the smile on Bailey Hongzhuang's face became brighter. The Battle of Zhuolu is indeed about to end, but isn't it not over yet? As soon as she said this, everyone looked at Bailey Hongzhuang doubtfully. They didn't know what she meant by this sentence. Lan Qingyan's face was also filled with disbelief. She didn't believe that Bailey Hongzhuang could overturn the heavens in this last hour. The next moment, Bailey Hongzhuang stood up and walked forward without hesitation. Instantly, everyone's eyes were focused on Bailey Hongzhuang. Could it be that Bailey Hongzhuang also comprehended the primal chaos tablet? Bailey Hongzhuang successfully took the first step, and 3 identity cards appeared in front of her. Seeing this scene, an ominous premonition emerged in Lan Qingyan's heart. Could it be that Bailey Hongzhuang not only had a breakthrough in her cultivation during this period of time, she had also comprehended quite a bit of the primal chaos tablet? If that was the case, then wouldn't her gains here not be comparable to Bailey Hongzhuang? Luckily, Bailey Hongzhuang had only taken the first step, and she was now on the second step. Bailey Hongzhuang should not be able to catch up to her. However, Bailey Hongzhuang's next action directly shattered Lan Qingyan's fantasy. Because after Bailey Hongzhuang kept the 3 identity cards, she did not hesitate to take the first step again. Similarly, it was extremely smooth, without any obstruction. Bailey Hongzhuang's charming face was filled with a clear and moving smile, and once again kept the 6 identity cards into her bag. Seeing this, the faces of Di Beichun and the others were full of smiles. Bailey Hongzhuang's performance at the moment really gave them a big surprise. Chapter 2469. After taking 2 steps forward, Bailey Hongzhuang was already standing beside Lan Qinyan. Her lips couldn't help but curve into a sarcastic smile. Lan Qinyan, I've disappointed you. Lan Qinyan's face was ashen. Looking at Bailey Hongzhuang, who appeared in front of her, her eyes were filled with disbelief. She didn't want to believe this fact. The pride that she had been proud of for so long actually dissipated in just a moment after Bailey Hongzhuang woke up. In comparison, Bailey Hongzhuang's harvest was much better than hers. Originally, Bailey Hongzhuang's strength was weaker than Bailey Hongzhuang. Now, in a short period of time, Bailey Hongzhuang has already reversed all the disadvantages. Needless to say, Bailey Hongzhuang's ranking is definitely higher than Lan Qinyan's. Didn't you see Lan Qinyan's pale face? This Bailey Hongzhuang is really talented. She can't be underestimated. Previously, when Bailey Hongzhuang had not woken up, everyone couldn't help but change their opinion after seeing Lan Qinyan's results. However, in a short time after Bailey Hongzhuang woke up, everyone's impression of her changed again. Now, most of the cultivators felt that Bailey Hongzhuang's future development couldn't be underestimated. In addition to her relationship with the young sect master of Tiangang sect, the rise of Limitless Palace was absolutely expected. For a moment, many people were secretly thinking in their hearts. After this battle of Zhuolu ended, they had to pull their relationship closer with Limitless Palace. Limitless Palace's strength had always been good. However, because it had been established for a short period of time, its foundation was insufficient. Therefore, everyone didn't pay too much attention to it. Once Limitless Palace and Tiangang sect had a marriage alliance, the situation would completely change. In the past, there weren't many forces that had close contact with Limitless Palace. The earlier they contacted Limitless Palace, the better. After seeing Bailey Hongzhuang, Ouyang Etien's heart was filled with emotions. He really didn't know how the palace master of Limitless Palace found such a successor. It was really heaven-defying. With Bailey Hongzhuang's speed of improvement and her perception, it would not be difficult for her to surpass Lan Qinyan in the future. The only thing was that the foundation of Limitless Palace could not be compared to the Lan clan. This time, after Lan Qinyan returned to the Lan clan, she would definitely use the clan's resources to improve herself. He and Lan Qinyan had known each other for so many years, so he knew her character very well. Therefore, the next time Bailey Hongzhuang and Lan Qinyan met, it was hard to say who would win and who would lose. Just when everyone thought that Bailey Hongzhuang had shown enough talent, Bailey Hongzhuang's next move stunned everyone once again. This was because Bailey Hongzhuang did not stop there. She continued to move forward. The third step. When Bailey Hongzhuang appeared beside Di Beichun and the 9 identity cards in front of her, everyone was certain that Bailey Hongzhuang had really reached the 3rd level. My wife, you're really amazing. Di Beichun smiled and gave Bailey Hongzhuang a thumbs up. He knew that Bailey Hongzhuang's perception had always been very powerful. Now it seemed that the state that Bailey Hongzhuang had entered previously had great benefits for her. Not only did she not fall behind in her comprehension, but her cultivation also increased rapidly. It was really eye-catching. That's natural. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled and winked at Di Beichun. Her harvest from this trip was much greater than everyone's imagination. Chapter 2470. Originally, her rainbow god pearl was only flowing with rainbow light. Its effect wasn't small, but it wasn't that shocking. However, after obtaining that power in the vast starry sky, she finally knew what the Real Rainbow God Pearl looked like. Now, if someone could see her Dantian, they would discover that other than the rainbow light from before, her Rainbow God Pearl also had specks of light. It was like the vast universe, just like a small galaxy. Following the changes of the Rainbow God Pearl, Bailey Hongzhuang also understood the true use of the Rainbow God Pearl. It was no wonder that the Lan family had been able to stand strong for so many years. The successor was already much stronger than ordinary cultivators with the Rainbow Sacred Pearl. If he had the awakened Rainbow Sacred Pearl, he would be even more powerful. However, She was also curious why Lan Qingyin didn't enter that state when she also possessed the Rainbow God Pearl. Regarding this, Bailey Hongzhuang had two guesses in her mind. Firstly, Lan Qingyin's Rainbow God Pearl was stolen. She herself wasn't the possessor of the Rainbow God Pearl, so she didn't have the qualifications to enter that world. Secondly, even cultivators who possess the Rainbow God Pearl might not be able to comprehend and enter that world. No matter which point it was, as long as Lan Qingyin didn't have such an opportunity, it was extremely good. She believed that even her master didn't know that the Rainbow God Pearl had such a miraculous effect. However, someone in the Lan family definitely knew. Perhaps the Lan family was hoping that Lan Qingyin could rely on this primal chaos tablet to break through in one go. Unfortunately, the final result would ultimately disappoint them. After obtaining another 9 identity tokens, Bailey Hongzhuang's number of identity tokens had become third, other than Deep Beichen and Mo Yunjue. She had obtained the most identity tokens. However, Bailey Hongzhuang didn't intend to end like this. She also didn't expect that this battle of vying for deer would have such a good start. However, as long as there was such an opportunity, she wouldn't miss it. She wanted to use this opportunity to let her name, Bailey Hongzhuang, resound throughout the world. This way, when she went to the Lan family, they wouldn't treat her as an ordinary person. In the next moment, Bailey Hongzhuang continued forward. The current her was no longer as unfamiliar with this mysterious primal chaos tablet as before. Instead, she was extremely familiar with it. She was very thankful for the primal chaos tablet. If not for it, she wouldn't have such an improvement. The fourth step. When everyone saw Bailey Hongzhuang take the fourth step, they couldn't help but gasp. So far, Di Beichen and Mo Yunjue had made it the furthest. Who would have thought that Bailey Hongzhuang would make it to the fourth step so smoothly after waking up? 12 identity cards appeared in front of Bailey Hongzhuang. Bailey Hongzhuang kept them without hesitation. Then, Bailey Hongzhuang took the fifth step. Lan Qingyin was completely dumbfounded after seeing Bailey Hongzhuang's actions. Her face was filled with disbelief. How difficult it was to comprehend the primal chaos tablet. All the cultivators present were extremely clear. If she didn't have the help of the Rainbow God Pearl, it wouldn't have been easy for her to reach this step. However, this extremely difficult task was accomplished so smoothly by Bailey Hongzhuang. Lan Qingyin only felt that her heart had been ruthlessly smashed. This Bailey Hongzhuang, who was surrounded by a halo, really made her envious. Chapter 2471. Feeling Lan Qingyin's gaze filled with jealousy, Bailey Hongzhuang's lips curled into a mocking smile. Seems like Lan Qingyin still didn't have a very good tolerance. Fifth step. Sixth step. Bailey Hongzhuang directly appeared in front of the primal chaos tablet, her right hand covering the tablet. Feeling that familiar aura, Bailey Hongzhuang's smile couldn't help but widen. Her heart was filled with gratitude towards the primal chaos tablet. Ever since she entered the vast space, the primal chaos tablet had been using its own power to help her. Thinking about it, every cultivator who had the Rainbow God Pearl would be very thankful for the existence of the primal chaos tablet. Only, what made her surprised was that the primal chaos ring and the primal chaos tablet had a very special connection. If she linked everything together, she suddenly felt that her transmigration into Bailey Hongzhuang's body might have been predestined. Many thanks. Bailey Hongzhuang bowed towards the primal chaos tablet. Maybe to other people, the primal chaos tablet was just a tablet with the power of laws. But she knew that the primal chaos tablet had its own spirituality. Any treasure born from heaven and earth would have its own spirituality. The vast space that she went to was the origin world of the primal chaos tablet. All the cultivators present had their mouths wide open as they stared blankly at Bailey Hongzhuang walking step by step towards the origin world of the primal chaos tablet. This scene completely stunned them, even if they knew Bailey Hongzhuang's comprehension, but at most she was on the same level as Deep Beichen and Mo Yunjue. But Bailey Hongzhuang actually walked in front of the primal chaos tablet. How could these cultivators who had worked so hard for so long just to take 1 or 2 steps endure this? In comparison, they were nothing but trash. The most important thing was that Bailey Hongzhuang suddenly bowed towards the primal chaos tablet and said words of gratitude. This was really strange. Could it be that Bailey Hongzhuang had obtained the primal chaos tablet's special inheritance without them knowing? That was why she was able to have such a shocking performance. No matter what, everyone was clear that the first place of the Battle of Zhuolu was definitely Bailey Hongzhuang. She had obtained so many identity tablets just from the primal chaos tablet. Who could compare to Bailey Hongzhuang? Di Beichen and the rest looked thoughtfully at Bailey Hongzhuang's actions. If their judgment wasn't wrong, Bailey Hongzhuang definitely obtained the primal chaos tablet's guidance in her previous state. If not, Bailey Hongzhuang wouldn't be able to comprehend so much. But to Di Beichen and the rest, this was an extremely good thing. Di Beichen, your wife's, wins Bailey Hongzhuang's performance. As long as the Battle of Zhuolu ended, Bailey Hongzhuang's name would definitely spread throughout the world. With Bailey Hongzhuang's appearance, identity, and current strength, luckily Di Beichen had acted early. Otherwise, who knew how many people would be chasing after Bailey Hongzhuang? He couldn't help but admire his brother's eyesight. It was really good. Even the young master of Shirtian Tower didn't have such a good opportunity. Di Beichen smiled evilly and winked. My eyesight is naturally good. You're taking advantage of me. Seeing Di Beichen being so shameless, Zhuang couldn't help but shake his head. This guy would definitely be a wife-flaunting demon in the future. Chapter 2472. By the time everyone could see clearly again, they were already on the ground. Looking carefully, everyone found that there was a high platform in front of them. On the high platform stood a few powerful elders. These are the people in charge of announcing the results this time. They're the Lan family, the Cloudsword sect, and the Hung Mountain sect. Di Beichen whispered in Bailey Hongzhuang's ear. Every time the Battle of Zhuolu was held, not all forces would participate. Therefore, every time, 3 forces would send people with high authority to announce the final results. Not only that, most of the 3 forces were not involved with each other. This was to prevent the possibility of cheating. Hearing this, Bailey Hongzhuang nodded. This method was indeed very fair. However, she felt that the name of the Hung Mountain sect seemed very familiar. Have we seen the people from the Hung Mountain sect before? Bailey Hongzhuang could not help but ask. Di Beichen raised his handsome eyebrows slightly. Speaking of which, we really did not meet the cultivators from the Hung Mountain sect in the main hall. Previously, there were many forces, so he did not pay special attention. Now that Bailey Hongzhuang mentioned it, he remembered that they had not seen the team from the Hung Mountain sect from the beginning to the end. Master, wasn't the Hung Mountain sect the team that was trapped in the array by us before? Xiaohei could not help but remind him. The cultivators from Wuji Palace were also helpless. Their young palace master was really busy. Previously, he did not even pay with his life. Now, he even forgot who the other party was. If the Hung Mountain sect's young palace master knew about this, he would probably vomit blood again. So it's them. Bailey Hongzhuang suddenly realized. I forgot she did not see the cultivators from the Hung Mountain sect, so she did not remember them. However, according to Di Beichen's words, didn't this mean that the cultivators from the Hung Mountain sect had been trapped in the array from the beginning until the end of the Battle of Zhuolu? It seemed that the cultivators from the Hung Mountain sect were really tragic. Feng Qinyi was very upset. The trial of the Battle of Zhuolu happened to fall on their Hung Shan sect. He had originally intended to take advantage of this opportunity to perform well, but he did not expect that his identity card would be stolen by a sneak attack, and then he would be trapped in the array formation. He had already wandered around the demonic miasma forest countless times, but he just couldn't get out. In the end, the entire team was exhausted and did not have any hope of coming out. They might as well just wait for the Battle of Zhuolu to end. This was really a bad start. Needless to say, they would be the last in the Battle of Zhuolu. The most despicable thing was that the other party actually claimed to be the young palace master of Limitless Palace. Even if he lost, he must find out who the other party was. Just as everyone was discussing and thinking that they could have a good rest after the Battle of Zhualu, an old man on the high platform spoke first. "I'm the Cloud Sword sect's Grand Elder, Feng Weilon." As soon as this was said, everyone present quieted down and listened carefully to the person on the high platform. "Next to me is the Lan family's Grand Elder, Lan Burong, and the Hung Mountain sect's Grand Elder, Wei Lihua." Bailey Hongzhuang and the others all bowed. These three people were all very powerful and had a very high status among the three. Chapter 2473. Today marks the end of the Battle of Zhualu. The three of us will witness everyone's strength. Feng Weilon's expression was indifferent. His gaze was even gentler when it landed on Xiren and Shangguan Yingying. He hoped that the young sect master and his wife would achieve good results in the Battle of Zhualu. The rankings of the Battle of Zhualu include the individual and team competitions. We will first determine the team's results. The three elders clearly didn't intend to waste any more time on this matter. The final rankings were what they were most concerned about. As long as the rankings were confirmed, the major powers would make some adjustments in the next few years. As for the rest, everyone present was a cultivator who had experienced hundreds of battles. There was no need to continue with the formalities. Bailey Hongzhuang's gaze landed on the Lan family's first elder, Lan Borong. According to what she knew from Lan Yunxiao, the majority of the Lan family's elders supported Lan Jingquan. Only a small portion of them supported Lan Yunxiao. Among them, Lan Borong was the elder who watched Lan Yunxiao grow up and treated him extremely well. Bailey Hongzhuang didn't expect to see Lan Borong here. She hesitated for a moment, but still felt that there was no need to hide her identity in front of Lan Borong. In any case, they would be heading to the Lan family soon. She believed in her father's judgment. Since her father believed that Lan Borong was on their side, then she didn't need to worry. Following Feng Weilon's words, the rankings of the teams appeared on the huge black square pillar at the front. There were a total of 40 teams present, and every team's ranking was clearly reflected on it. However, the rankings were slowly displayed from the bottom to the top. When everyone saw that the 40th team was from the Hung Mountain sect, their expressions couldn't help but become more interesting. The team that originally thought that they would be at the bottom didn't expect to have an existence worse than them. They were instantly overjoyed. The moment she saw the ranking, Wei Lihua's expression froze. Before the Battle of Zhualu began, their young sect master had bitterly cultivated for a long time and was full of confidence in this Battle of Zhualu. How could they be at the bottom? Moreover, this time, the Hengshan sect was the one who announced the final result. This was a great loss of face. Feng Qianyi's face was already ugly to the extreme. Although he had already expected this situation, when it really happened, he still lost all his face. He just wanted to find a hole to hide in. All the cultivators present looked at the cultivators of the Hung Mountain sect and Wei Lihua. This time, the Hung Mountain sect was really a dark horse. Although the strength of the Hung Mountain faction was not the best, it should be in the middle level. Unexpectedly, it was at the bottom this time. We didn't see Feng Qianyi and the others in the main hall. Where did they go? After Wei Lihua heard everyone's discussion and saw Feng Qianyi's extremely vexed expression, she had already guessed a possibility in her mind. "Young sect master, you wouldn't have taken that path, would you?" As soon as she said that, Feng Weilon and Lan Borong's expressions changed a little. They immediately understood which path Wei Lihua was talking about. If that was really the case, then it was not surprising that the Hung Mountain sect had achieved such a result. Chapter 2474. Following Feng Qianyi's words, the cultivators who had some doubts suddenly understood what was going on. They had also heard of the legendary path, but they were very glad that they did not encounter it. However, Bailey Hongzhuang and the other cultivators from Limitless Palace looked at each other, not understanding what Feng Qianyi meant. Weren't they walking the same path as Feng Qianyi? Why did the others have such strange expressions? Xiren couldn't help but laugh. I didn't expect that the winner this time would be the Hengshan sect. No one else has such luck. Shangguan Yingying also covered her mouth and laughed. Didn't you see how ugly Feng Qianyi's face was? This time, the Hengshan sect has really lost face. Yingying, what are you laughing at? Is there something wrong with the path that the Hongshan sect took? Bailey Hongzhuang couldn't help but ask. Hongzhuang, you don't know, but there's a path that none of the participating teams are willing to take in the battle for deer. It is the path that the Hongshan sect took this time. It is said that the test on that path is very difficult, and there's also the existence of the array. Therefore, the last place in every battle for deer is mostly the team that was assigned to that path. Shang Wanning laughed and explained to Bailey Hongzhuang. Before participating in the battle for deer, they were constantly praying in their hearts, hoping that they would not be the unluckiest ones. Hearing this, the cultivators from Limitless Palace reacted. Previously, they were still lamenting that the difficulty of the battle for deer was really high. If it wasn't for the young palace master's heaven-defying ability, they were afraid that they would not be able to make it. Compared to that, the test in the underground passage was not difficult at all. Now, they finally understood what was going on. It wasn't that every team's path was so difficult. It was just that they weren't lucky. However, compared to their harvest, it cannot be said that they were unlucky. I was wondering why the tests along the way were so difficult. It turns out that we took the path that no one was willing to take. Bailey Hongzhuang could not help but sigh. As soon as this was said, Sheng Wanning and the others could not help but be stunned. They only suspected that they had misheard. Hongzhuang, what did you just say? Did you take that path as well? Bailey Hongzhuang nodded slightly. That's right. I thought every path would be difficult. Instantly, the smiles on everyone's faces froze as they stared at Bailey Hongzhuang in disbelief. Hongzhuang, are you sure you didn't make a mistake? When Xiren asked, there's no mistake. Feng Qianyi's identity medallion is still with me. Bailey Hongzhuang naturally took out Feng Qianyi's identity card. This was the first identity card she had obtained. When everyone clearly saw Feng Qianyi's name written on the identity card, everyone's expression suddenly became interesting. Solid evidence. This was irrefutable evidence. Shang Wanning couldn't help but look at Bailey Hongzhuang. Hongzhuang, you can still walk out of that road. I really admire you. You broke the record of the battle for deer for so many years. Di Baichen and Mo Yunjue did not know what to say at this moment. That road was notoriously difficult to walk, but Bailey Hongzhuang did not know anything and still walked down it. If Feng Qianyi knew, he would probably be angered to death. Chapter 2475. After all, every time a team participated in the Battle of Zhuolu, there would be such an unlucky team. Everyone was already used to it. It can only be said that their Hongshan sect was unlucky. It was not because they did not have the strength. At this time, Feng Qianyi searched through all the teams and finally found Limitless Palace's figure. The next moment, Feng Qianyi immediately walked to the front of Limitless Palace's team. He still remembered the words that guy said to him. Until now, he could not help but feel angry when he thought of it. The other party actually claimed to be the young palace master of Limitless Palace. Limitless Palace did not have a young palace master at all. Is there a young palace master of Limitless Palace in your team? Feng Qianyi stood in front of Bailey Hongzhuang and the others. His face could not hide his annoyance. When these words came out, the cultivators present looked at Feng Qianyi in astonishment. They did not understand why Feng Qianyi would find trouble with Limitless Palace at this time. Only the disciples of Limitless Palace knew. To be honest, the young palace master had clearly left her real name. However, Feng Qianyi's brain did not believe it. The people who attacked us previously claimed to be from Limitless Palace. They even left the name of Limitless Palace's young palace master, Bailey Hongzhuang. I just want to know if this matter is true. Feng Qianyi was a stubborn person. He was unlucky to be trapped in the array this time. He accepted it. However, the other party played with him. He could not just let it go like this. Every injustice has its perpetrator, and every debt has its debtor. No matter what, he had to know which team he was defeated by. Following Feng Qianyi's words, the expressions of all the cultivators present became strange. They only knew the name of Limitless Palace's young palace master, Bailey Hongzhuang, when they were in the main hall. However, Feng Qianyi was clearly surrounded by a sneak attack before that. Logically speaking, there should not be anyone who pretended to be Bailey Hongzhuang, on the high platform. Wei Lihua and the other two looked at Feng Qianyi in confusion. They did not understand what Feng Qianyi was doing at this time. Bailey Hongzhuang looked at Feng Qianyi in front of her. This guy's appearance did not match his name. Feng Qianyi was slightly plump, and his round face was filled with indignation. The stubbornness in his bones was also revealed. Bailey Hongzhuang nodded. "That's right. I'm the one who took your identity card." From the beginning to the end, she had never intended to deny this matter. It was just that Feng Qianyi himself did not believe it. Feng Qianyi originally thought that he would definitely get a negative answer. Therefore, he did not seriously size up Limitless Palace's team. Instead, he wanted to know how long the team that ambushed him could last. However, when Bailey Hongzhuang admitted it, Feng Qianyi was dumbfounded. "I am Bailey Hongzhuang." Bailey Hongzhuang emphasized again. Before she had participated in the Battle of Zhuolu, almost no one had known her name as Bailey Hongzhuang. Once the Battle of Zhuolu was over, she wanted everyone to know of her existence. Only then did Feng Qianyi notice the identity card with his name written on it in Bailey Hongzhuang's hand. He was dumbfounded. How could this be? Feng Qianyi's face turned into the color of a pig's liver. His original imposing manner disappeared in an instant. The other party had been speaking the truth all along. However, he was angry because the other party had lied to him for such a long time. However, this Bailey Hongzhuang was too honest. Didn't the usual sneak attack not leave a name? Chapter 2476. Originally, everyone was confused about this matter, but after seeing the identity card in Bailey Hongzhuang's hand, everyone understood the reason. It turned out that not only were Feng Qianyi's group trapped in the array, even their identity tokens were taken away. So, Bailey Hongzhuang and Hengshan Sect's people took the same path? Then why did Bailey Hongzhuang's group walk out? The people from Limitless Palace couldn't have walked through the most difficult path, right? It seems to be so. The cultivators looked at each other in dismay. This news was really explosive. For so many years, no one had successfully walked through the group, but someone had actually walked through it. Feng Qianyi didn't think of this point before. Now that he understood, his gaze towards Bailey Hongzhuang was filled with fear. He always thought that Bailey Hongzhuang's group would be trapped in the front, but from the others' expressions, it was clearly not the case. Wei Lihua and Feng Weilan, who were on the high platform, looked at Bailey Hongzhuang in shock. Limitless Palace's group actually walked through this path. This was really amazing. Most importantly, for so many years, cultivators couldn't walk through it. So how did Limitless Palace's group walk through it? Logically speaking, Limitless Palace's palace master absolutely wouldn't reveal the content of this test. In fact, even if he revealed it, Bailey Hongzhuang's group wouldn't be able to pass with the difficulty of this test. However, they actually passed. The two's emotions kept changing. It seemed that Limitless Palace's cultivators weren't ordinary. Lan family's great elder Lan Borong stared at the pale golden figure in a daze. His eyes were filled with disbelief, and his heart was in a perilous situation. How is this possible? The young woman in front of him was so similar to Mu Lingbing in the past. Even, he could vaguely see Lan Yunxiao's silhouette. However, that child couldn't have survived at that time. Lan Borong only felt that his brain had stopped at this moment, and he couldn't think properly. He understood everything that happened at that time. Everyone was helpless. Even if Lan Yunxiao and Mu Lingbing took out their treasures, they still couldn't save him. After that, the Yu family wasn't willing to save him, so Lan Yunxiao's group completely disappeared. For so many years, he never received any news of Lan Yunxiao's group. However, the face in front of him was clearly so familiar. How could he not have any connection with her? If that child was still alive, he should have reached this age by now. Lan Borong kept thinking about all these possibilities in his mind. Then how did she become the young palace mistress of Limitless Palace? Moreover, her surname was Bailey, not Lan. Could it be this was just a coincidence? Lan Borong couldn't figure out. This news was too shocking for him. He couldn't figure out at all. Wei Lihua and Feng Weilan couldn't help but look at Lan Borong on the side, but they saw the shocked expression on Lan Borong's face. They couldn't help but sigh in their hearts that Lan Borong's shock towards Bailey Hongzhuang was even greater than theirs. Bailey Hongzhuang also noticed the change in Lan Borong's expression. Others didn't know why Lan Borong was shocked, but she was very clear in her heart. Reveal it. You will know everything sooner or later. Chapter 2477. Such a despicable matter had happened to the usually glorious Lan family. No one stood on the side of justice and had persecuted their family to such a state. However, the truth would never be so easily covered up, because those who were oppressed were so unreconciled. Even if they spent their entire lives and let themselves sink in pain, they would never forget that filthy and despicable scene. She would never forget. Lan Yinxiao would never forget. Mu Lingbing would never forget. Mu Jins would never forget. Situ Yin would never forget. Their entire family would never forget. Hence, they wanted to expose everything in front of everyone. The sharp Di Beichen also noticed the changes in Bailey Hongzhuang and Lan Borong's expressions. In fact, from the moment he knew that Lan Borong had appeared here, Di Beichen couldn't help but worry. Bailey Hongzhuang and Mu Lingbing looked too similar. As long as it was the older generation of the Lan family, anyone who had seen Mu Lingbing before would definitely recognize Bailey Hongzhuang. Hence, he had been paying attention to Lan Borong. As expected, the moment Lan Borong saw Bailey Hongzhuang, he was clearly stunned. He definitely recognized Bailey Hongzhuang. At the same time, he also noticed Bailey Hongzhuang's indifference and calmness. It seemed that Bailey Hongzhuang was already prepared to meet the Lan family at any time. Since that was the case, he was relieved. With their current background, there was no need for them to hide like before. Even if they were to openly challenge the Lan family, they wouldn't be afraid. The blood feud that they had prepared for so many years was finally going to be unveiled. Bailey Hongzhuang looked at Feng Qianyi, who was staring at her in a daze with an awkward expression and didn't know how to get out of the embarrassing situation. She slowly said, "Young Master Feng, this is my first time participating in the Battle of Zhuolu. If I have done anything wrong, I hope that you will be magnanimous enough to forgive me." Speaking of which, Feng Qianyi was also an unlucky fellow who had been harmed by her array. In a battlefield like the Battle of Zhuolu, small conflicts were extremely normal. Logically speaking, there was no need to be too calculative. She believed that Feng Qianyi would not be so serious. After all, there were winners and losers in the competition. Feng Qianyi originally didn't know how to get out of this situation. Now that he saw Bailey Hongzhuang giving him a way out, he naturally went along with it. "Young Palace Master Bailey, I am truly sorry for my ignorance." Bailey Hongzhuang smiled. "This is my first time attending as Limitless Palace's young palace master. It's normal for young Master Feng to not know." After Feng Qianyi and Bailey Hongzhuang exchanged a few pleasantries, Feng Qianyi returned to his team. Although it was still somewhat awkward, it was undoubtedly much better than before. Originally, he was full of resentment towards the person who ambushed him, but after seeing Bailey Hongzhuang, he wasn't so angry anymore. On the contrary, he felt that his tolerance couldn't be compared to Bailey Hongzhuang. He was really apologetic. The rankings on the ranking board continued to appear. The earlier the teams saw their names, the more depressed they were. On the other hand, the teams that didn't see their names were filled with anticipation. Lan family, 20th place. When Lan Borong saw this ranking, he couldn't help but be stunned for a moment. He only suspected that he had seen wrongly. 20th place? Their Lan family was always in the top few every time. How did they fall to 20th place this time? Chapter 2478. However, after noticing Lan Qingyin's missing right arm, Lan Borong already understood in his heart. The Lan clan had probably encountered an extremely terrible situation in the Battle of Zhuolu this time. With Lan Qingyin's strength, it was easy to imagine that she had fallen to such a state. Wei Lihua, who was originally in a very bad mood, felt a little comforted after seeing the Lan clan's ranking. She didn't expect the Lan clan's performance to be so bad this time. They were originally in the top few, but this time they fell to the 20th place. Their Hengshan sect was originally in the middle level, but now they had fallen to the last place. In essence, they were the same. Cloud Sword Sect's elder Feng Weilon was in an extremely good mood. It seemed that at least their Cloud Sword sect didn't encounter such an unexpected situation. The Ouyang clan's performance this time wasn't greatly affected by the Lan clan, and they obtained the 10th place. 8th place, Sun Moon Palace. After everyone saw the name Sun Moon Palace, the teams present couldn't help but sigh. Sun Moon Palace had been in seclusion for so many years. Many people had already neglected them. However, they still obtained such an amazing result in the Battle of Zhuolu. From this, it seemed that even if the other party was in seclusion, their strength wasn't weak at all. If they underestimated them, because of this, they would be the unlucky ones. 4th place, Cloud Sword Sect. When he saw this result, Feng Weilon's face couldn't help but reveal a thick smile. This ranking was already an extremely good result for their Cloud Sword Sect. In the next few years, the Cloud Sword Sect's right to speak would increase again. The young Palace Master and young Palace Master's wife lived up to everyone's expectations, and their results were excellent. When Xiren and Shangwan Yingying also revealed joyful smiles after seeing this result. They didn't cultivate so hard for so long in vain. Looking at this result now, they felt that everything was worth it. 2nd place, Shitian Pavilion. 2nd place, Tiangang Sect. When these 2 second places appeared, everyone couldn't help but be surprised, because there was no 3rd place but 2 second places. Lan Borong and the others were also surprised when they saw this situation, but after thinking carefully, they understood. Shitian Pavilion and Tiangang Sect had obtained the same number of identity cards, so they were tied for 2nd place. This kind of situation had happened before, but it was the first time it had happened in 2nd place. Everyone could not help but exclaim. Previously, when they saw Di Beichin and Mo Yunjue's performance in front of the Primal Chaos tablet, they felt that the two of them were equally matched. Who would have thought that the number of identity cards in this team would be exactly the same? These 2 people were really fated. The 3 beasts, when Xiren and the rest were speechless when they saw this scene. This was too much of a coincidence. What an ill-fated fate. Compared to everyone else's shock, Di Beichin and Mo Yunjue's expressions were extremely calm. This result was not out of their expectations. After marveling at the strength of these 2 forces, everyone's gaze landed on Limitless Palace. As expected, the 1st place belonged to Limitless Palace. The number of identity cards that Bailey Hongzhuang alone had obtained was equivalent to the number of identity cards that the other team had. It would be strange if they didn't get 1st place. 1st place, Limitless Palace. When these 6 resplendent words appeared, everyone couldn't help but exclaim. Chapter 2479. On the high platform, Feng Weilon and the other 2 couldn't help but be stunned. The result of this Battle of Zhuolu was truly unexpected. In their opinion, the biggest possibility of getting 1st place was Tiangang Sect. However, the one who got 1st place turned out to be Limitless Palace, which no one thought of. This was really a dark horse. It seemed like Limitless Palace's development in these few years couldn't be underestimated. Moreover, Limitless Palace's team had passed through the most difficult team. Linking all of these together, it proved that Limitless Palace's team was truly strong. Lan Qingyan couldn't hide the jealousy in her eyes. All the glory and limelight had been snatched away by Bailey Hongzhuang alone. She was truly unhappy. She had already lost this Battle of Zhuolu. The next time she met Bailey Hongzhuang, she would definitely win it back. After Lan Borong knew about Bailey Hongzhuang's achievements, he was even more shocked. If Bailey Hongzhuang was really Lan Yinxiao and Mu Lingbing's child, then it wasn't strange for her to be so outstanding. After all, like father, like daughter. However, her dantian was completely shattered and couldn't be recovered. It was impossible for her to become a cultivator. Lan Borong kept thinking about these thoughts. After returning to the Lan family, he would definitely tell the family head this news. All these years, they might have overlooked many things. He knew how important Lan Yinxiao was in the family head's heart. After that incident, the family head directly spat out a mouthful of blood. After so many years, the family head had never given up on searching for Lan Yinxiao. However, they seemed to have disappeared into thin air and couldn't be found at all. If Lan Yinxiao and the rest were still alive, the family head would be much more relieved. After all, it was a knot in the family head's heart that he couldn't untie. Lan Yunxiao and the rest had disappeared for nearly 20 years. Ever since they disappeared, the family head had never bothered with Lan Jingquan. As the family head's good brother, he clearly knew that the saddest thing for the family head was that the two sons he was so proud of couldn't help each other and instead fought to this extent. The top 3 teams this time will receive the cultivation resources provided by the major forces. After the Battle of Zhuolu, the resources will be sent to your respective forces as soon as possible. Feng Weilon said slowly. As soon as he said that, Bailey Hongzhuang and the others smiled faintly. The cultivation resources offered by the various major forces would not be lacking, and gathering them together would naturally bring about benefits that could not be ignored. Next, we will announce the results of the individual competition. Only the top 10 will be announced. Lan Borong said slowly. At this moment, he had already recovered from his previous shock. No matter what the truth was, he had to wait until he returned to the Lan clan before making any other plans. Very quickly, the results on the stone pillar disappeared and were replaced by the individual rankings. Compared to the nervousness of the others, Bailey Hongzhuang and the others were extremely calm, because they already knew the outcome. Master, our harvest this time is really not small. Xiao Hei's eyes sparkled. When she first participated in the Battle of Zhuolu, she was very nervous. She never thought that she would have a chance to win. Not only did Limitless Palace's reputation become more resounding, we also obtained many benefits. Xiao Bai rubbed her hands. Even if she hadn't seen the treasures, she didn't need to think to know that these treasures were definitely not bad. Chapter 2480. Bailey Hongzhuang looked at the happy faces of the 3 little guys, and the smile in her eyes became even gentler. You guys have contributed greatly in this battle of vying for the throne. After we go back, I'll treat you guys to a big meal. How about it? Master is the best. The 3 beasties were full of smiles. They hadn't eaten any delicacies for 3 months, and they really missed it. In the end, as expected, Di Beichen and Mo Yunjue were tied for second place. When the crowd saw that Di Beichen and Mo Yunjue had the same result again, they only thought that the 2 of them were at odds with each other. Things were so coincidental that it made people sigh in admiration. Bailey Hongzhuang also couldn't understand how the 2 of them could be so coincidental that they obtained the same number of identity tablets. Logically speaking, this was something that was hard to achieve even if it was specially arranged. First place, Bailey Hongzhuang. When the 7 different colored words appeared again, the crowd couldn't help but gasp in admiration. In this battle of vying for the throne, Bailey Hongzhuang was really in the limelight. No other powerhouse could compare to Limitless Palace. All the limelight had been overshadowed by them. Limitless Palace's cultivators were full of joy. Before the competition, although they hoped to get a good result, they didn't even dare to think of getting first place. They didn't think that it would actually land on their heads. They didn't disappoint the palace master's expectations for them. This would be their life's glory. Lan Xingyan didn't enter the top 10. This result was too different from what she had thought before coming. She was afraid that when she returned to her family, this result would be criticized. Once she thought of this and looked at Bailey Hongzhuang, who was flushed with success, Lan Xingyan almost ground her teeth to pieces. If it wasn't for Bailey Hongzhuang, the person who was flushed with success would be her. She really couldn't understand how Bailey Hongzhuang was able to obtain the Primal Chaos Tablet's approval. She believed that her senses weren't wrong. There was a connection between the Primal Chaos Tablet and the Rainbow God Bead. She felt that after comprehending the Primal Chaos Tablet, the Rainbow God Bead in her body had become stronger. Logically speaking, she was the one who was most likely to be accepted. Why was Bailey Hongzhuang accepted? When Lan Borong saw that Bailey Hongzhuang was the winner of this competition, his expression became even more complicated. From his perspective, Bailey Hongzhuang was definitely not an ordinary person. On the contrary, she was very outstanding. No matter if it was her way of dealing with people or her temperament, she was much more mature than Lan Xingyan. She was neither arrogant nor rash. Even if she had the upper hand, she knew how to use the simplest method to win the other party's favor. If it was Lan Xingyan, when Feng Qianyi was in that situation, it would be good enough if she didn't kick him while he was down. She wouldn't have given Feng Qianyi a way out. However, Bailey Hongzhuang was magnanimous enough. First, she lowered her own status so that the other party wouldn't feel the slightest bit of falsehood. Then, she gratefully accepted her good intentions. Previously, Feng Qianyi was still full of resentment towards Bailey Hongzhuang. But because of such a simple matter, Feng Qianyi already didn't care about the previous matter. On the contrary, he even accepted Bailey Hongzhuang's favor. This seemed like a very simple matter, but with his sharp eyes, he could already see a lot. Chapter 2481. Turning his gaze, Lan Borong also noticed Lan Qingyin's face filled with hatred. He couldn't help but feel helpless. Regarding Lan Qingyin's temperament, he had always felt helpless. If the clan leader had such a temperament, it would not be easy to handle the clan's affairs in the future. However, Lan Qingyin's temperament seemed to be innate and could not be changed. All these years, the elders had also discussed this matter. However, the most outstanding person in the entire Lan clan was Lan Qingyin. Moreover, Lan Qingyin was the owner of the Rainbow Pearl, so her position as the clan leader was unshakable. As the elders in the clan, they could only do their best to help Lan Qingyin. The Lan clan absolutely could not fall because of Lan Qingyin's temperament, but they still had a trace of hope. Lan Qingyin's current arrogant and domineering temperament was only due to her youth. When she truly became the clan leader, her temperament should change. The top 3 in the individual competition this time can enter the Lan clan's Divine Ice Lake to cultivate for a month. The Divine Ice Lake will open 3 months later. At that time, the 3 of you can come to my Lan clan as guests. Lan Borong's face was filled with a faint smile. His gaze fell on Bailey Hongzhuang and the other 2. Following Lan Borong's words, the originally noisy crowd could not help but let out a cry of surprise. The Lan clan's Divine Ice Lake was very famous. Many years ago, the Lan clan had also used it as a reward for the Battle of Zhuolu. Cultivators who cultivated in the Divine Ice Lake for a month would have the opportunity to increase their cultivation. Moreover, their spiritual roots would also be improved to a certain extent, helping the cultivator to reach a higher level. The further a cultivator cultivated, the harder it would be to break through, especially when crossing from the blue realm to the purple realm. Any impurity could affect the result of the breakthrough. Therefore, everyone would make sufficient preparations to break through to the purple realm. As long as they could increase their chances of winning by a little, it would be excellent. This Divine Ice Lake was an opportunity that everyone had always been envious of. Who would have thought that the Lan clan would take it out as a reward this time? It was really enviable. Everyone's eyes fell on Bailey Hongzhuang, Di Beichun, and Mo Yunjue. This was an enviable opportunity. Normally, the Lan family's Ice Snow Divine Pond was only used by the Lan family's cultivators. Other people had no chance to enter. Who would have thought that Bailey Hongzhuang and the other 2 would be so lucky? Not only that, but even though the Divine Pond of Ice and Snow belonged to the Lan family, it could not be used at any time. It was only available once every 3 years, and only a few people could use it each time. If he missed it this time, he would have to wait for 3 years. Bailey Hongzhuang didn't know much about the Divine Pond of Ice and Snow, but from the envious expressions of the others, she knew that the Divine Pond of Ice and Snow wasn't simple. She had never enjoyed the cultivation resources of the Lan family. It seemed that she would have to make a trip to the Lan family in 3 months. Speaking of which, she was really looking forward to it. The environment that she was supposed to be incomparably familiar with was now frighteningly unfamiliar. Di Beichun and Mo Yunjue couldn't help but look at each other. This was really a coincidence. The Lan family had only taken out the opportunity to enter the Divine Pond of Ice and Snow twice. They didn't expect that they would encounter it this time. Chapter 2482. When Lan Borong returned to the Lan family, he would definitely report this matter. Needless to say, the Lan family would immediately send people to investigate this matter. Even though they had kept this matter under wraps, there was no guarantee that no clues would be leaked out. However, even if it was a dragon's lair or a tiger's den, they would still accompany Bailey Hongzhuang. Bailey Hongzhuang turned her head and saw Di Beichen and Mo Yunjue's slightly dignified expressions. She couldn't help but smile. It seemed that they had the same idea. She would definitely not give up on this opportunity. The three of them looked at each other and smiled. 3 months later, going to the Lan family would probably be a different experience. After knowing that Bailey Hongzhuang was going to the Lan family, Lan Xinyan's eyes couldn't help but reveal a smug smile. The Lan clan, that was Lan Xinyan's home ground. Previously, Bailey Hongzhuang dared to bully her. When Bailey Hongzhuang went to the Lan family, she would let Bailey Hongzhuang have a good taste of what it felt like to bully others. The humiliation that Bailey Hongzhuang gave her, she would return it back in folds. Master, that Lan Xinyan must have some bad ideas in her heart. Baisher noticed Lan Xinyan's smug expression and couldn't help but feel dissatisfied. Just by looking at this evil woman's expression, he knew that she must be thinking of some despicable means. After going to the Lan family, no one knew what would happen. Bailey Hongzhuang's gaze turned slightly. As expected, she saw the viciousness in Lan Xinyan's eyes that hadn't dissipated in time. Lan Xinyan also didn't expect Bailey Hongzhuang to suddenly turn around. She couldn't help but feel guilty. She didn't want Bailey Hongzhuang to run away. If Bailey Hongzhuang gave up this opportunity, then she didn't know when she would be able to turn the tables. Bailey Hongzhuang's lips slowly curved into a mocking smile. She looked at Lan Xinyan provocatively. Her meaning was obvious. If you have the ability, then come at me. No matter what Lan Xinyan did, she was not afraid. On the contrary, it was Lan Xinyan who should be afraid. Afraid that she didn't know when all the things she had snatched away would leave her. However, Bailey Hongzhuang did not intend to remind her. It wouldn't be long before the outcome of the battle was revealed. When Lan Xinyan saw Bailey Hongzhuang being so arrogant, she couldn't help but get angry. This woman was even more arrogant than her. It seemed that her previous worries were unnecessary. Bailey Hongzhuang was like a newborn calf that was not afraid of a tiger. At that time, she would let Bailey Hongzhuang experience her, Lan Xinyan's methods. So what if she killed Limitless Palace's young palace master? Everyone's gaze couldn't help but fall onto Bailey Hongzhuang and Lan Xinyan. The reward that the Lan family had given out this time was too coincidental. The cultivators who were originally prepared to get closer to Limitless Palace after the Battle of Zhuolu couldn't help but hesitate. Once Bailey Hongzhuang went to the Lan family, it could be a dragon's pool and a tiger's den. The Lan family was Lan Xinyan's home ground. It was almost impossible for Bailey Hongzhuang to take advantage of it. If something happened to Bailey Hongzhuang in the Lan family, they would have to carefully consider how the wind would change. The Battle of Zhuolu had ended. Bailey Hongzhuang and the others returned home with a proud record and went to the place where the transmission array was located. Wife, are you mentally prepared for this trip to the Lan family? Chapter 2483. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled. I've already mentally prepared myself. I'll have to go sooner or later. It's not a bad thing to go earlier. She no longer feared the Lan family. Even if she had to reveal her identity to everyone in the Lan family, she wouldn't care at all. The only thing she was worried about was her parents. She didn't know how her parents' bodies had recovered in the past few months. She hoped that the next time she returned to the Lan family, the whole family would return together. However, the 20 years of torture had taken a toll on their bodies. It wouldn't be easy for them to recover. Before she had left the Sun Moon Palace, she had already tried her best to concoct pills to help her parents recover. She believed that during this period of time, her maternal grandparents would also use all the heavenly treasures they had to help her parents recover. Bailey Hongzhuang didn't know how long it had been since she had recovered. She would check on her parents' situation when she returned. If possible, it was time for them to appear in front of the Lan family. Di Beichen saw that Bailey Hongzhuang's expression was calm. She didn't seem to be worried or pretending to be strong. He was also relieved. Hongzhuang had always been strong. Perhaps other people would have been crushed by this kind of situation. However, Hongzhuang had managed to break through under this kind of pressure. He believed that Hongzhuang would be able to face the Lan family calmly in the future. Mo Yunjue looked at the strong Bailey Hongzhuang and didn't say anything. Hong Zhuang didn't have the weakness and helplessness of other women. However, the strength she displayed made one's heart ache even more. In the past, he had always felt that Bailey Hongzhuang was carrying a burden on her shoulders. However, he wasn't sure what it was. Ever since he understood why Bailey Hongzhuang was so strong. Many times, it was the environment that forced people to grow. They didn't have a choice. Xiren and Shangwan Ying didn't know the deeper meaning behind Di Beichen's question. They only thought that Bailey Hongzhuang would suffer Lan Qingyin's revenge when she went to the Lan family. Hongzhuang, don't worry. Shangwan Ying's face rippled with a concerned smile. This time, you're all going to the Lan clan as the top 3 in the Battle of Zhuolu. Even if Lan Qinyin wants to make things difficult for you, you can't make it too obvious. Otherwise, it will be detrimental to the Lan clan's reputation. I believe that the people of the Lan clan will not allow Lan Qinyin to run amok. Hearing this, Bailey Hongzhuang smiled faintly and nodded. I understand. This divine pond of ice and snow is a good opportunity. I will not give up just because of Lan Qinyin. Shangwan Ying gave him a thumbs up. If you don't go, then Lan Qinyin will be really happy. So you must go. Ying is right. Xiren echoed. With your current strength and the help of the divine ice lake, you will be an existence that threatens Lan Qingyin's position in the future. That's why Lan Qinyin is acting like this. Di Beichun and the others looked at each other and smiled. They were willing to do anything that made the enemy uncomfortable. That's right. Hongzhuang, what happened to you in front of the Primal Chaos Tablet? Why were you in such a strange state? Shangwan Ying's face was filled with curiosity. Previously, when Bailey Hongzhuang entered that state, she was already very curious. After seeing Bailey Hongzhuang's shocking performance, she became even more curious. Chapter 2484. As soon as these words came out, everyone's eyes focused on Bailey Hongzhuang's body. Towards this point, they were truly curious. They had never encountered such a situation before. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled. When I was comprehending the Primal Chaos Tablet, I suddenly realized that I had entered a vast space. If I didn't guess wrongly, that should be the origin world of the Primal Chaos Tablet. Afterwards, I kept walking in this vast space, feeling the power of the space to help me cultivate. I had no understanding of the outside world and had no way of leaving. Only when the Battle of Zhuolu was about to end did I come out. With regards to this point, Bailey Hongzhuang didn't intend to hide it. Thinking about it, the fated people of the other Primal Chaos Tablets would also see such a world. However, she didn't reveal the connection between the Rainbow God Pearl, the Primal Chaos Ring, and the Primal Chaos Tablet. Before heading to the Lan family, she wouldn't reveal the Rainbow God Pearl. Listening to Bailey Hongzhuang's words, Shangwan Ying and the others' faces were filled with amazement. I didn't expect the Primal Chaos Tablet to have such a mystical world. Hongzhuang, you're the fated person of the Primal Chaos Tablet. Xiren's eyes were filled with indescribable emotions. Such a fortuitous encounter was truly enviable. Even though he only heard a few sentences from Bailey Hongzhuang, he could feel the uniqueness of that vast world. Di Beichen and Mo Yunjue were also shocked by Bailey Hongzhuang. Bailey Hongzhuang's comprehension was truly exceptional. Out of all the cultivators present, she had to be chosen. Just based on this point, it was enough to judge. It's just a coincidence. Bailey Hongzhuang shook her head. If it wasn't for the Rainbow God Pearl and the Primal Chaos Ring, she wouldn't have been able to enter the origin world of the Primal Chaos Tablet. Hongzhuang, where are you planning to go later? There were only 3 months left before heading to the Lan family. It seemed like there was still a long time, but in reality, there wasn't much time left. There was no teleportation array between Limitless Palace, Heavenly Dipper Sect, and Sun Moon Palace. If they were to rush, they would need to spend a lot of time on the journey. After not seeing Lan Yinxiao and the others for so long, Bailey Hongzhuang must have missed them very much. If Bailey Hongzhuang wanted to go directly to Sun Moon Palace, she could still go directly with Gu Zhiqin and the others. Bailey Hongzhuang pondered for a moment and said, I think I should make a trip back to Limitless Palace first. Now that the Battle of Zhuolu is over, I have to go back and report to them. This was her first time participating in the competition as the young palace mistress of Limitless Palace. Furthermore, the cultivators of Limitless Palace did not know much about her. She could use this opportunity to go back and stabilize her position. What's more, Master and Mistress had high hopes for her. If she didn't go back, it would be inappropriate. Hearing Bailey Hongzhuang's reply, Di Beichen nodded his head. Wait for me at Limitless Palace. I'll find you soon. Now that the Battle of Zhualu was over, they needed to discuss their next steps. All right, Bailey Hongzhuang nodded her head. In the next 3 months, they still needed to prepare many things. Hongzhuang, if there's anything you need me for, just send me a letter. Mo Yunjue slowly said. Just from Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichen's expressions, he could already guess what they were planning to do. Chapter 2485. Hearing Mo Yunjue's words, Bailey Hongzhuang felt a burst of gratitude in her heart. Her beautiful face also bloomed into a brilliant smile. All right, when we meet at the Lawn family, I'll teach you the art of disguise, okay? She had already said earlier that she would teach Mo Yunjue the art of disguise. However, during this period of time, they came and went in a hurry. She didn't have the chance to say anything else. When they went to the Lawn family, she believed that the situation at the beginning wouldn't be so urgent. Taking advantage of this opportunity, she could also teach the art of disguise to Mo Yunjue. Mo Yunjue's cold face suddenly revealed a smile. His voice was so gentle that it was surprising. All right, Shangguan Yingying and Wen Ziren sighed in their hearts when they saw Mo Yunjue looking at Bailey Hongzhuang with eyes full of affection. All along, they felt that the Heaven Slaughter Tower was too mysterious. The young master of the Heaven Slaughter Tower was also a decisive person. However, no one had ever thought that the young master of the Heaven Slaughter Tower would be an infatuated person. This kind of understanding made them change their view of Mo Yunjue. In their hearts, they also felt a little sad for Mo Yunjue. If such a man found the right sweetheart, they should also be a pair of immortal companions. Not long after, Bailey Hongzhuang and the others arrived at the teleportation array. After everyone agreed to meet again next time, the Limitless Palace team, as the first-place existence, left first. When Bailey Hongzhuang and the others opened their eyes again, they had already appeared in the teleportation array at the foot of the Limitless Palace Mountain. Standing in front of them were the Palace Master, the Palace Master's wife, and many elders. Just as the Palace Master said before they left, they would be waiting for their return here. When Bailey Hongzhuang and the others appeared in the center of the teleportation array, Yu Linfeng and the others revealed a smile on their faces. With a slight glance, they discovered that 2 people were missing from the team. However, these casualties were within their expectations. There were casualties in almost every battle of Zhualu. As long as the army wasn't completely wiped out, it wasn't too bad. Bailey Hongzhuang had lost 2 out of 10 people, which was a pretty good result. Palace Master's wife, Bailey Hongzhuang, and the others immediately bowed to Yu Linfeng and Nangong Wu. Ever since they came back and saw the Palace Master and Madam personally welcoming them, they had an uncontrollable excitement in their hearts. It's good that you're back safely. Let's return to the sect first. Yu Linfeng had a faint smile on his face. He did not know the results of Bailey Hongzhuang and the others. But no matter what, everyone was participating for the sake of Limitless Palace. 3 months of training was already tough enough. If you were to ask about the results now, it would hurt everyone's feelings. Bailey Hongzhuang and the others also had smiles on their faces. After leaving Limitless Palace for 3 months, they couldn't help but feel happy when they returned. The feeling of returning home was always excellent. The elders were a little perturbed. They didn't know what the results were this time. This was the thing that they were most concerned about. This was because this result would affect the development of Limitless Palace and their right to speak for the next few years. Limitless Palace's strength had always been strong. It was just that they hadn't been established for a long time, so they still needed a certain amount of time. If they obtained good results in the Battle of Zhualu, then this situation would change. Chapter 2486. When Bailey Hongzhuang and the rest appeared at the peak of Limitless Palace, they saw the cultivators of Limitless Palace coming out to greet them. Look, they're back. The Battle of Zhualu is indeed dangerous. 10 people went, and only 8 came back. I wonder how they did. Looking at their expressions, I think their results should be pretty good. The disciples discussed animatedly as they had countless guesses in their hearts. They only hoped that they could achieve a good result. As disciples of Limitless Palace, they were bound together for good or ill. If Limitless Palace could achieve a good result in the Battle of Zhualu, then, as disciples of Limitless Palace, they would also share in the glory. Long Xianjing and the others were in an extremely good mood. At this moment, when they saw the many pairs of expectant eyes, they felt that they had not let down everyone's expectations of them. At the same time, they had also drawn a thick and heavy stroke in their careers. Bailey Hongzhuang and the rest did not stay for long. Instead, they followed behind Yu Linfeng and Nangong Wu to the assembly hall. They needed to report the situation of the Battle of Zhualu to Yu Linfeng and the rest. After that, the other disciples would also know about their results. Nangong Wu and the rest were in a good mood. From Bailey Hongzhuang and the rest's expressions, they could tell that their results would not be bad. If it was really bad, he believed that everyone's faces would be filled with frustration, and they wouldn't be in such high spirits right now. In fact, the moment they saw Bailey Hongzhuang and the rest, their hearts that were originally on tenterhooks relaxed a little. Assembly Hall, Palace Master, Palace Mistress, and the various elders took their seats. Bailey Hongzhuang and the rest stood in the middle of the assembly hall. Speaking of which, they were not tired at all. The second half of the Battle of Zhualu was completely different from the previous battles. Hongzhuang, how are your results this time? Yu Linfeng knew that everyone was curious about this question. He immediately went straight to the point and asked. Now that everyone here was from Limitless Palace, there was no need to hide anything. As soon as he said that, all the elders looked at Bailey Hongzhuang. They were obviously very concerned about this result. Bailey Hongzhuang's pretty face was filled with confidence and joy. She bowed to Yu Linfeng and said, "Fortunately, we didn't disappoint you. We won first place." Following Bailey Hongzhuang's words, the entire meeting hall fell silent. Everyone's eyes were fixed on Bailey Hongzhuang. Their eyes were filled with doubt and surprise. They wondered if they had heard wrongly. However, from the expressions of Bailey Hongzhuang and the others, they felt that they had not heard wrongly. You said first place? Nangong Wu couldn't help but ask again. This result was something that even they had never imagined. Bailey Hongzhuang nodded and said to everyone again in an affirmative tone, "That's right, we won first place." Ha! Suddenly, the entire assembly hall burst into laughter. This news was too unexpected and pleasantly surprising. Even the elders who were usually calm couldn't help but laugh out loud at this moment. Bailey Hongzhuang would never lie to them about this kind of thing. This result was really something to be proud of. Yu Linfeng and Nangong Wu looked at each other, and a smile appeared on their faces. First place. Chapter 2487. Immediately, all the elders in the discussion hall looked at Bailey Hongzhuang and the others with fiery gazes. They were the heroes of Limitless Palace. Nurturing disciples was not an easy task. Furthermore, Limitless Palace had only been established for a short period of time. The cultivators they recruited were only ordinary cultivators. If they wanted to nurture these cultivators to a level where they could compete with the cultivators of other factions, they would need a period of time. Over the years, Limitless Palace had been improving every year. Although they knew that this was due to objective factors, the elders could not help but sigh in their hearts. There were many factions in Shangxian continent. The result was the result. Not many people would care about the process and reason. Therefore, their right to speak could not be compared to the other major factions. Originally, they only hoped that Bailey Hongzhuang and the others would be able to obtain a good result in the battle for throne. At the very least, they would be able to improve. This was also related to Bailey Hongzhuang revealing her identity for the first time. However, none of them dared to imagine that they would be able to obtain first place. The successors and cultivators of the top factions were never weak. To defeat them and obtain first place was as difficult as ascending to the heavens. But now, Bailey Hongzhuang had clearly told them that Limitless Palace had obtained first place. How did you obtain first place? Gu Taihong could not help but ask. This matter was simply too exciting. Even with their mentality, they could not wait to know the process at this moment. Looking at the excited faces of the elders, Bailey Hongzhuang and the others smiled even more brightly. They had worked so hard for so long. Firstly, it was for themselves. Secondly, it was to live up to the expectations of Limitless Palace. At this moment, seeing the happy faces of the palace master and the elders, they felt a strong sense of pride. They had finally lived up to everyone's expectations. Before Bailey Hongzhuang could answer Gu Taihong's question, Yu Linfeng's voice rang out again. Then who obtained first place in the individual competition? The moment he said this, Long Xianjing and the others' gazes landed on Bailey Hongzhuang. It's the young palace master. Everyone replied in unison. In such a joyous moment, everyone did not care about their usual etiquette and status. They only wanted to quickly share this good news. This news was no different from a heavy bomb that smashed onto everyone's body. Nangong Wu was startled at first, but then her face was filled with ecstasy. She knew that Hong Zhuang's performance would not be bad. However, this result was simply too shocking. First place. It was Bailey Hongzhuang's first time participating in the Zhuolu battle, and she already won first place. This was truly a good start. There is no need for them to introduce Bailey Hongzhuang as Limitless Palace's young palace lord. Yu Linfeng was also a little surprised. Originally, he was a little worried that with Bailey Hongzhuang's strength, there would be a lot of pressure competing with the heirs of other forces. Because he was very clear that Bailey Hongzhuang's cultivation at that time could only be ranked in the lower middle level among the many outstanding heirs. Her strength was probably in the middle. He had always been worried that Bailey Hongzhuang would not be able to take it after meeting Lan Qingyan and being suppressed by Lan Qingyan. He did not expect that Bailey Hongzhuang would give them such a big surprise and obtain first place. Chapter 2488. Gu Taihong and the other elders also looked at Bailey Hongzhuang with burning eyes. Their dignified faces were now filled with shock and astonishment. Everyone had been dissatisfied with the palace master's decision to let the young palace master lead the team to participate in the Battle of Zhuolu without informing them. Bailey Hongzhuang was too young, and everyone did not know much about Bailey Hongzhuang. The successor was related to the future development of the sect. How could they make such a decision so casually? Moreover, before the Battle of Zhuolu began, Bailey Hongzhuang had not appeared. When she appeared, she immediately participated in the Battle of Zhuolu. As for Bailey Hongzhuang, other than Gu Taihong, who knew a little about her, the other elders only knew that Bailey Hongzhuang was the champion of the assessment competition. At the same time, she was also a genius alchemist. If Bailey Hongzhuang was only a cultivator, her results would naturally be very good. However, if she wanted to be the successor, she would need to have a higher standard. However, at this moment, after knowing the results of Bailey Hongzhuang, the complaints in everyone's hearts had dissipated. Champion of the Battle of Zhuolu. Who would dare to say that Bailey Hongzhuang did not have the qualifications to become the young palace master? Such results were enough to make the entire Limitless Palace proud. Gu Taihong's face was filled with joy. Recently, many elders had been asking him about the young palace master's situation. The pressure on him was not small. Fortunately, the young palace master had amazed the world with a single brilliant feat now. He did not have to worry about the criticism of others. Results were everything. Just as Gu Taihong had thought, all the elders felt that the palace master's foresight was indeed extraordinary. The successor that was suddenly chosen was actually so powerful. The other forces did not have such good foresight. Next, Bailey Hongzhuang slowly narrated the events that had happened in the Battle of Zhuolu. Thinking about it, everyone was very curious about their experiences during this period of time. Why not tell them now to save everyone's curiosity? So you're saying that you're taking the hardest path? Nangong Wu could not help but raise her voice. Previously, she had discussed this matter with Yu Linfeng and felt that their team would not be so unlucky. Who would have thought that they would really be the unlucky ones? Bailey Hongzhuang nodded. Although the tests along the way were very difficult, we also gained a lot. Now that she thought about it, Bailey Hongzhuang was glad that they chose this path. Otherwise, they would not have gained so much, and she would not have been able to improve her strength. The greater the difficulty, the greater the improvement. This was the truth of the cultivation world. Young Palace Master, there is a formation on this path. How did you get there? Gu Taiyong frowned slightly. Compared to the other tests, this array formation was the one that left him speechless. For so many years, almost every team had been trapped in this array. I cracked it, Bailey Hongzhuang said slowly. As soon as these words came out, everyone in the conference hall looked at Bailey Hongzhuang in astonishment. She cracked it so easily? This kind of array formation should not be so easy to crack, right? Not only did the young palace master crack the array, but she also set up a new array formation to trap the Hongshan sect's team. We directly attacked the Hongshan sect and took their identity cards. Chapter 2489. As Yin Aoshuang's voice fell, the elders in the meeting hall looked at each other in dismay. There was only one question in their minds. Where did the palace master find the young palace master from? Arrays. The current cultivators would not even come into contact with such things, right? But now, it seemed that the young palace master had not only come into contact with it, but she had also mastered it thoroughly. Otherwise, the young palace master would not have been able to set up another array to trap the Hongshan sect cultivators so easily. At this moment, the elders could not help but mourn for the Hongshan sect. Needless to say, the Hongshan sect was in last place this time. When Yulin Feng and the rest found out that Bailey Hongzhuang had crippled Lan Qingyin's hand, they were completely shocked. Lan Qingyin had been famous for a long time. They had a rough idea of her strength. With Bailey Hongzhuang's strength, logically speaking, it was impossible for her to seriously injure Lan Qingyin. Yet, Bailey Hongzhuang had done it. Nan Gongwu quietly gave Bailey Hongzhuang a thumbs up. She thought that Bailey Hongzhuang would still need some time to seek revenge on Lan Qingyin. She did not expect Bailey Hongzhuang to be so powerful. She had given Lan Qingyin a head-on blow the first time they met. But this feeling was really great. She had always been looking forward to the battle between Bailey Hongzhuang and Lan Qingyin. Although she had not seen it with her own eyes, just hearing about it made her feel very happy. After Bailey Hongzhuang and the rest finished talking about what they had experienced in the Battle of Zhuolu, everyone finally understood. If Bailey Hongzhuang did not lead the team in this Battle of Zhuolu, their results would not be better than the previous years. On the contrary, they would be in the last place. This was because, in their team, other than Bailey Hongzhuang who could break this array, the others obviously could not do anything. In the end, it was also because Bailey Hongzhuang comprehended the Primal Chaos Tablet that she was able to obtain enough identity cards. All the light was covered by Bailey Hongzhuang alone. After explaining everything, Bailey Hongzhuang and the others returned to their respective residences to rest. After running around outside for 3 months, everyone wanted to go back to their own residences to relax. Before Bailey Hongzhuang left, Nangong Wu gave Bailey Hongzhuang a look, indicating that she would look for her later. Now, they needed to announce this result to the entire Limitless Palace. This was a joyous occasion for the entire Limitless Palace. It was also a shot in the arm for all the disciples of Limitless Palace. When Bailey Hongzhuang and the 3 beasties returned to the palace, someone had already brought them food. Bailey Hongzhuang thought for a moment and knew that this was definitely prepared for her by Master's wife. Her heart couldn't help but feel warm. Master and Master's wife had always treated her as one of their own and gave her a lot of warmth. When the 3 beasties saw the delicacies in front of them, their eyes stared straight at Bailey Hongzhuang. They were just waiting for Bailey Hongzhuang to give the order, and they would eat heartily. Looking at the 3 beasties' excited looks, Bailey Hongzhuang's smile deepened. Although these 3 fellows could eat a lot, they were really cute. "Let's eat," Bailey Hongzhuang smiled. When she said that, the 3 beasties were like wild horses that had broken free of their reins and started to eat heartily. As they ate, they even raised their oily mouths and talked to Bailey Hongzhuang. Chapter 2490. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled. Cultivation is not an enjoyment. Training outside is not comparable to training at home, so the treatment is naturally incomparable. You guys should take advantage of this time to eat more delicious food. After a while, we will be setting off again. The three beasties had been with Bailey Hongzhuang for so long, and their feelings had long turned into familial love. Bailey Hongzhuang was very glad to have these three playful fellows by her side. No matter what, they would always support her. The three beasties nodded. When they went to the Lan family, they still did not know what would happen. With Lan Xinyan's personality, there would definitely be a lot of trouble. Most importantly, they still did not know when their master was planning to reveal her identity in front of the Lan family. They had to be prepared. Although the strength behind their master could not be underestimated, the first time they went to the Lan family, it would not be a group of people killing their way in. Therefore, the Lan family could be said to be a tiger's den. No one could be sure of the Lan family's attitude. In their opinion, the Lan family was a very cold-blooded family. Initially, they felt that their master, who had been robbed of the rainbow pearl and crippled of her dantian, no longer had any value. Therefore, in order to protect Lan Xinyan's family, they turned against their master's family. Now, their value was even higher than Lan Xinyan's. They were really curious about what the Lan family would choose under such circumstances. It would be best if the Lan family maintained their usual style. Only by letting Lan Xinyan feel the feeling of being worthless and abandoned would the pride in her bones be obliterated. Bailey Hongzhuang did not think too much. Before deciding on a specific course of action, she had to contact her parents. Only then, she could be sure of what to do next. She believed that her parents also wanted revenge. After all, so many years of humiliation and oppression. If they did not return it, they would not be able to let it go for the rest of their lives. Just after Bailey Hongzhuang and the three beasties finished eating, Yulin Feng and Nangong Wu also came to Bailey Hongzhuang's bedroom. Master, mistress. Bailey Hongzhuang bowed to the two of them. Compared to her strict attitude in the meeting hall, there was no doubt that she was much more intimate now. Nangong Wu pulled Bailey Hongzhuang's hand and sat down. It must be very tiring to participate in the Battle of Zhuolu, right? Bailey Hongzhuang smiled and shook her head. I'm not tired. After so many years, she had long been used to such a life and did not feel tired at all. You've truly given us a huge surprise this time. I'm afraid none of the powers had expected such an outcome. Yu Linfeng's face rippled with a smile like a spring breeze. His disciple really gave him face. He suddenly felt that he had underestimated Bailey Hongzhuang in the past, because Bailey Hongzhuang could always explode with power that others could not imagine at the critical moment. Yes, Nangong Wu's face was full of excitement. Just now, all the elders were full of praise for you, praising your master's eyesight. You don't know, before you all returned, all the elders were full of complaints. When I think of their change in attitude, I find it funny. Master, mistress, if you all did not give me this opportunity, I would not be able to reach this step. Bailey Hongzhuang was neither arrogant nor rash. She was very clear about her own strength. Chapter 2491. If it wasn't for this, she definitely wouldn't be able to get first place. Deep Beichin and Mo Yunjue were the real first-place existences. Nangong Wu chuckled. If you participate as a Tiangang sect disciple, then the first place will definitely belong to Tiangang's sect. If that's the case, then we're the ones who got a huge advantage. The smile on Yu Linfeng's lips widened. Letting Bailey Hongzhuang participate in the Battle of Zhuolu was an idea that he had just decided on not too long ago. Originally, he didn't make this suggestion because he wanted to protect Bailey Hongzhuang. Without sufficient preparation, it would be harmful to Lan Xinyan. However, he felt that instead of letting Bailey Hongzhuang participate as a Tiangang sect disciple, it would be better for her to participate as the young palace master of Limitless Palace. At least, in terms of status, she and Lan Xinyan were the same. However, the surprise that Bailey Hongzhuang gave him this time was really too big. This time, the Lan family really failed miserably. Compared to Limitless Palace's previous excitement, the Lan family's current situation should be very bad. Hongzhuang, 3 months later, you'll be heading to the Lan family's divine ice snow pond. What do you think? A serious expression appeared on Yu Linfeng's face. When he heard this news, He was already worried. It was just that he didn't show it in the discussion hall. Bailey Hongzhuang was the daughter of Lan Yinxiao and Mu Lingbing. Even if she didn't reveal her identity, there were many smart people in the Lan family. Seeing this familiar face, they might be able to deduce some clues. Once that happened, the situation might not be something that Bailey Hongzhuang could control. I didn't hide my identity. In the Battle of Zhuelu this time, I met the Lan family's great elder, Lan Borong. If I didn't guess wrongly, he has already begun to suspect my identity. Bailey Hongzhuang's expression was calm. Now, she already had the confidence to face the Lan family head-on. There was no need for her to be cautious. After hiding for so many years, she no longer wanted to continue hiding. Listening to Bailey Hongzhuang's words, Yulin Feng and Nangong Wu couldn't help but look at each other. In their minds, they had already vaguely guessed Bailey Hongzhuang's thoughts. She was planning to lay all her cards on the table. I have already made preparations. As long as my parents recover, we can appear in front of the Lan clan at any time. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled faintly. Now, they were not people who could be slaughtered so easily like before. With Tiangang Sect, Sun Moon Palace, and Limitless Palace as their foundation, even if they went to the Lan clan would not dare to do anything to them. She was not afraid at all. However, she hoped that her parents could appear in front of the Lan family in a strong state. Back then, they had been in dire straits in front of the Lan clan. Now, they would not fall into that situation again. Yulin Feng looked deeply at Bailey Hongzhuang. After seeing the determination and fearlessness in Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes, he knew that Bailey Hongzhuang had already thought everything through. Since you already have a plan, Master will definitely support you. When you go to the Lan clan, Master will go with you. Stay in the outer city. If there is any danger, release the signal flare and I will appear immediately. Yu Linfeng's gaze was soft as he looked at Bailey Hongzhuang. He wanted to see who dared to touch his disciple. Chapter 2492. Bailey Hongzhuang looked at Yu Linfeng and Nangong Wu, who had made up their minds. Her heart was moved. Thank you, Master and Mistress. You've always cared for me. Thinking back, she and her master had only met by chance, yet her master had done everything he could to help her. This was not something that could be expressed with just a few words of thanks. It would take a lifetime to remember and repay. We're all family. Why are you being so courteous? Nangong Wu's face was full of smiles. She and Bailey Hongzhuang had hit it off at first sight. With her fiery personality, it was not easy for her to endure until now. Furthermore, Yulin Feng had played a part in this as well. This time, she was finally going to visit the Lan family. She would not miss this opportunity. The Lan family was indeed a great power in the Shengxian continent. However, they were not the only great power. There was no need to fear them. There's no need to say such courteous words in the future. Don't forget, we're family. Yu Linfeng's face rippled with an elegant and comfortable smile. He and Bailey Hongzhuang were originally related by blood. Furthermore, they were both people who had been expelled from the Lan family. This was a kind of fate in itself. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled as she looked at Yu Linfeng and Nangong Wu. Her eyes flashed with a resplendent smile. She then nodded. 1,000 words would not be enough to express her gratitude. Everything was expressed without words. She would engrave all of this in her heart. Hongzhuang, this is a letter from the Sun Moon Palace a few days ago. Yu Linfeng took out a letter from his chinquan bag and handed it to Bailey Hongzhuang. Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes lit up. She received the letter and opened it. She had always wanted to know the current situation of the Sun Moon Palace. She never thought that the Sun Moon Palace would have already sent a letter before she had returned. Bailey Hongzhuang recognized Mu Lingbing's handwriting at first glance. The letter stated that Mu Lingbing and the others were in Sun Moon Palace as soon as possible. During this period of recuperation, Mu Lingbing, Lan Yinxiao, and Mu Jin's bodies were rapidly recovering. Compared to before, it was undoubtedly much better. Situ Yin even took out all the heavenly treasures he could find, hoping to help them recover as soon as possible. Lan Yinxiao and Mu Lingbing consumed heavenly treasures while working hard to raise their cultivation. In the past, their cultivation was not weak. Although their bodies had been ravaged beyond recognition, their strength had not been crippled. Perhaps it was because Yu Siqing and the others felt that the duo had no chance of escaping, so they didn't do so. Instead, they gave the duo a chance to recover. After such a long period of recovery, their strength had more or less recovered, and their essence, qi, and spirit were much stronger than before. Not only that, with Si Tu Yan's hard work, Mu Jinsei didn't reject Si Tu Yan as much as before. According to Mu Jin's judgment, it wouldn't be long before Mu Jin's and Si Tu Yan reconciled. After all, there had never been any problems between the two of them. It was only because of the misunderstanding back then that things had turned out this way. They had missed each other for so many years, and no one wanted to see them miss each other again. Thus, with Mu Ling Bing and the others acting as matchmakers, the situation gradually improved. Bailey Hongzhuang read the contents of the letter, and her smile gradually widened. Her family was doing well. This was what she wanted to see the most. This was the kinship she had always longed for. Chapter 2493. Seeing Bailey Hongzhuang smile getting brighter and brighter, Nangong Wu and Yu Linfeng glanced at each other, the smile in their eyes also getting wider. When they first met Hongzhuang, only Di Beichun was by Bailey Hongzhuang's side. Now that Bailey Hongzhuang had found all her family members, compared to before, they could feel that Bailey Hongzhuang was much more cheerful. Master, do you know the relationship between the Rainbow God Pearl and the Primal Chaos Tablet? After Bailey Hongzhuang finished reading the letter, she looked at Yu Linfeng. It seemed like Yu Linfeng understood the Rainbow God Pearl the most. Primal Chaos Tablet? Yu Linfeng raised his brows as a wisp of contemplation flashed across his handsome and refined face. There seemed to be some relationship between the two. This is what I heard in the Lan family. However, I've never seen the Primal Chaos Tablet, so I don't know the true relationship. You're comprehending the Primal Chaos Tablet this time. Is it related to the Rainbow God Pearl? Yu Linfeng quickly thought of the reason why Bailey Hongzhuang asked this question and immediately asked. Bailey Hongzhuang nodded slightly. Because of the Rainbow God Pearl, I was able to enter the origin world of the Primal Chaos Tablet. I discovered that the origin world of the Primal Chaos Tablet and the Rainbow God Pearl have different methods to achieve the same result, and the Primal Chaos Tablet has always been helping me strengthen the Rainbow God Pearl's energy in my body. How did the Rainbow God Pearl in your body change? There's an additional gold light. It's like a vast starry sky. Bailey Hongzhuang replied honestly. In the next moment, Bailey Hongzhuang directly summoned the rainbow elemental energy in her body. The bright and resplendent rainbow light appeared in her hand seal. Compared to the simple rainbow light in the past, the current rainbow light seemed to be plated with a layer of gold. It was even more beautiful and beautiful. Yu Linfeng immediately sensed that the rainbow light didn't just change in appearance. Its power had also increased greatly, almost to a whole new level. This rainbow elemental energy is indeed different from before. It looks really beautiful. Nangong Wu's eyes flashed with shock when she saw the rainbow elemental energy in Bailey Hongzhuang's hands. She had to say, it looked really beautiful. Looks like the Rainbow God Pearl we obtained previously was only in its initial state. There's still the possibility of improvement. Your Rainbow God Pearl has already improved. Its power is much stronger and will help you a lot. This is a good thing and will be a great help to you. Yu Linfeng looked at Bailey Hongzhuang with admiration. Bailey Hongzhuang was truly a person with great luck. That's right, your Rainbow God Pearl's condition. How is Lanza's situation? It was reasonable to say that Bailey Hongzhuang and Lan Xingyin both had the 7-colored God Pearl, so it was very likely that both of them had improved. Lan Xingyin didn't improve. Nangong Wu couldn't help but smile. A fake is a fake. Even if her parents helped her obtain the 7-color Divine Pearl and fuse with it, she can't be considered a true possessor. Yu Linfeng nodded. Now it seems that this is the reason for it. Lan Xingyin has the Rainbow God Pearl, but she wasn't chosen by the Rainbow God Pearl, so she can't enter the Primal Chaos Tablet's origin world. As he spoke, the corners of Yu Linfeng's mouth suddenly curled into a smile. Perhaps The Lan clan has great hopes for Lan Xingyin this time, hoping that her rainbow divine pearl can be improved. Chapter 2494. Bailey Hongzhuang, Yu Linfeng, and Nangong Wu looked at each other. They all had the same thought. However, it was precisely because of this that they felt relieved. If everything was so easily taken away by Lan Xingyin, then that would be the greatest injustice. Sun Moon Palace. Early in the morning, Mu Jin's, Si Tian, and the others were already waiting for Gu Zhiqin and the others to return. They also wanted to know the results of the Battle of Zhuolu. What they cared about the most was not the results of the Sun Moon Palace. The Sun Moon Palace had been in seclusion for many years and did not care too much about these things. What they cared about the most was how Bailey Hongzhuang fared in the Battle of Zhuolu. Ever since they knew that Bailey Hongzhuang was going to participate in the Battle of Zhuolu and would meet Lan Xingyin in the Battle of Zhuolu, they were somewhat worried. Usually, just from Bailey Hongzhuang's performance, they could tell how much Bailey Hongzhuang hated the Lan family. From a moment Lan Xingyin took everything from Bailey Hongzhuang, they were destined to be enemies. As Bailey Hongzhuang's relatives, what they were most worried about was Bailey Hongzhuang's safety and that Bailey Hongzhuang would be unhappy. Not long after, Gu Zhiqin and the others returned one after another. Seeing so many people coming to greet them, Gu Zhiqin and the others were overwhelmed by the favor. When Mu Jin's and the others learned that Bailey Hongzhuang had participated in the Battle of Zhuolu as the young palace master of Wuji Palace and had won first place, they could not help but be stunned. Most importantly, Bailey Hongzhuang had cut off Lan Xingyin's hand and even forced Lan Xingyin to kowtow and apologize to her in front of everyone. This was something that none of them had expected, but it was indeed in line with Bailey Hongzhuang's personality. Yin Xiao, Yixuan finally did it. Mu Lingbing could not conceal the joy on her face. As Yixuan's mother, she had not been able to properly protect her from the moment Yixuan was wronged. And now, Yixian had used her own strength to accomplish all of this. How could she not be happy? Only by defeating the person who had snatched one away from him would he be worthy of himself. Lan Yinxiao couldn't conceal the shock on his face. He always knew that his daughter was very outstanding, but Yixuan had accomplished all this in such a short time. It was truly unbelievable. However, the smile on his lips had already revealed his emotions. 19 years ago, he always felt that he was an existence worthy of being proud of. But now, Yixuan was his greatest pride. Mu Jinsei was even more agitated. Yixian is indeed formidable, worthy of being your daughter. Originally, their family had already fallen into a situation of being broken up, but because of Lan Yixuan, they were able to gather together like this. Yixuan is truly capable. You can be completely at ease now. Situ Yin grinned, revealing his white and neat teeth. His granddaughter was indeed extraordinary. The value of first place was not something that other competitions could compare to. He was truly comforted in his heart. Gu Jinghe and Gu Zhiqin's hearts were also filled with admiration. Bailey Hongzhuang was indeed a legendary woman. It was truly amazing that she could achieve this step. For a moment, the entire Sun Moon Palace was filled with cheers and laughter. There is nothing more joyous than seeing one's family member obtain proud results. Chapter 2495. Lan Clan. Lan Xingyin returned with Lan Borong. As soon as she appeared at the transportation array, the Lan clan was already there to welcome her. However, looking at the people who welcomed her, Lan Xingyin and the group of disciples behind her didn't have any joy on their faces. On the contrary, their faces were very ugly. Their results in the Battle of Zhuolu this time could be said to be the worst in the history of the Lan clan. The process was even more humiliating. Since the end of the Battle of Zhuolu, they were already thinking about how to explain it when they returned. That kind of situation was really hard to talk about. Thinking back to when they participated in the Battle of Zhuolu, they were full of confidence and were only waiting to kill everyone in the Battle of Zhuolu. They didn't expect that now they would come back dejected. Thinking about the expectant eyes of their family members, they felt ashamed to face others. Not to mention that they would be ridiculed by their competitors. Just thinking about it made their heads explode. Lan Borong looked at Lan Xingyin and the others with a complicated gaze. When he knew about this result, he also felt it was inconceivable. Now that they returned to the huge Lan clan, everyone's thoughts could be imagined. However, what should be faced would be faced sooner or later. This result couldn't be concealed. Moreover, Lan Qingyin's injuries were so serious that she had to recover as soon as possible. 3 months later, the divine pond of ice snow would open. Lan Qingyin had to adjust her condition in this period of time so that she could obtain the best results in the divine pond of ice snow. When the elders and disciples of the Lan clan who came to welcome them saw the situation of Lan Qingyin and the others, their faces couldn't help but change. Just looking at Lan Qingyin's missing arm, they already had a bad premonition in their hearts. With Lan Qingyin's strength, she actually fell to such a state in the Battle of Zhuolu. It seemed that the competition in this Battle of Zhuolu was extremely fierce. Lan Qingyin looked at the embarrassed expressions of the elders in front of her. Her heart was even more upset for no reason. Since young, when had she, Lan Qingyin, ever been so dejected? It was simply a loss of face. The next moment, Lan Qingyin directly said to Lan Borong, "First Elder, I'm not feeling well and will go back to rest first. I'll have to trouble you to help me deal with these matters." After her voice fell, Lan Qingyin didn't wait for Lan Borong's reply. She turned around and directly walked towards her residence. She didn't want to stay here and face everyone's doubtful gazes. This battle for the throne was the greatest humiliation of her life. Seeing Lan Qingyin leave just like that, Lan Borong couldn't help but sigh. Until now, Lan Qingyin still had such a childish temper. No matter what happened, as long as she didn't want to face it, she would leave it behind and walk away. However, not everyone was willing to help her clean up this mess. All these years, because Lan Qingyin was the owner of the Rainbow Pearl, her halo was too dazzling. Everyone was used to praising her, so she didn't even have the courage to accept these things and the patience to admit her mistakes. It was worrying. Following Lan Qingyin's departure, the faces of the other Lan family disciples who were also participating in the battle for deer chasing became even uglier. Originally, with Lan Qingyin here, everyone's focus was on Lan Qingyin. This reduced the pressure on them by a lot. Chapter 2496. As expected, all the elders' gazes landed on Lan Borong and the other disciples. It was obvious that something unexpected had happened in the Battle of Zhuolu. Lan Borong looked at the elders in front of him and said, "Let's go to the conference hall first." The elders nodded their heads one after another. The joy on their faces when they were waiting had already disappeared, and it was replaced by a heavy feeling. The results this time are probably worse than they had expected. Conference hall. According to Lan Borong's arrangement, other than the participating disciples, all the other disciples had gone back to rest. Only the participating disciples and the elders entered the conference hall together. As soon as they entered, all the elders couldn't help but ask, "Great Elder, what exactly happened?" All the elders were confused. They couldn't understand. With the strength of their Lan family team, it shouldn't be possible for them to have a bad result. Could it be that they had been persecuted? Lan Borong's expression was heavy. He sighed helplessly. This time, our Lan family's results in the Battle of Zhuolu were very bad. We were ranked 20th. Following Lan Borong's words, all the elders' expressions changed. It was as if they had heard an impossible answer. Our Lan family has never been ranked in the top 10. This time, with the young master leading the team, our results should be better. How do we end up with such a result? Lan Borong shook his head. "I'm not too sure about this. We'll have to ask them." As soon as this was said, the gazes of all the elders landed on the participants. They had to figure out what had happened in the middle of this. "Tell us what happened from the moment you entered the Battle of Zhuolu to the end." Looking at the elders' serious expressions, the participating disciples didn't dare to hide anything. They immediately recounted the entire process. Actually, they were regretting it. If they didn't have the intention to snatch Limitless Palace's elixirs, their results wouldn't be so bad. Limitless Palace. When the group of elders found out that the culprit behind their team's poor results was Limitless Palace, almost all of the elders' faces were filled with anger. Ever since Limitless Palace expressed their unwillingness to interact with the Lan family, The Lan family and Limitless Palace were at odds. Who would have thought that something like this would happen during the Battle of Zhualu? Damn it! This Limitless Palace is really incompatible with our family. I think we have to take some action. The second elder's face was filled with anger. After that incident, he advocated to teach Limitless Palace a lesson. However, in the end, the family felt that there was no need to do so. Not interacting with each other for the rest of their lives was already a form of opposition. Lan Borong, on the other hand, wasn't as angry as the second elder. Speaking of which, we can't blame Limitless Palace's team for this matter. It was our team that went to look for trouble first. However, we didn't expect Limitless Palace to have a helper like the Heaven-Devouring Pavilion. Great Elder, this Limitless Palace's young palace master is also the wife of the Heavenly Dipper sect's young sect master. A disciple said slowly. Chapter 2497. After the disciples finished recounting everything that happened in the Battle of Zhualu, the elders couldn't help but fall into silence. Although Bailey Hongzhuang's attitude towards Lan Qingyan made them extremely unhappy, Bailey Hongzhuang's strength was indeed not to be underestimated. You guys must be tired after running around for so many days. Go back and rest first. Lan Borong said. Once these words came out, the disciples who participated in the Battle of Zhualu immediately retreated as though they were pardoned. They stayed in the discussion hall and felt the low pressure. It wasn't a normal kind of pressure. After all the disciples had left, the elders exchanged glances with each other, each having their own thoughts. This Limitless Palace's young palace master seemed to have appeared out of thin air. Could it be that Limitless Palace has been secretly developing all this time? Third Elder's face was solemn. They didn't pay attention to this news before. They didn't expect Limitless Palace, Big Dipper Sect, and Slaughter Sky Tower to have countless connections. In the past, there weren't many forces that had a good relationship with Limitless Palace. They didn't expect them to have so many allies in just a few years. This wasn't what they wanted to see. I've heard of this Bailey Hongzhuang's name before. A few days ago, Medicine Sect and Big Dipper Sect's alchemist competition was Bailey Hongzhuang who obtained first place. Logically speaking, Bailey Hongzhuang should be a disciple of Big Dipper Sect. I don't know when she became Limitless Palace's young palace master. Fourth Elder said. In reality, they weren't unfamiliar with the name Bailey Hongzhuang. It was just that no one knew of the relationship between Bailey Hongzhuang and Limitless Palace before this. It really made them helpless. Now that things have come to this, Limitless Palace's development will probably be even faster in the next few years. We have to pay more attention. Lan Borong's expression was slightly calm. There was no point in pursuing this matter now. It was more important for them to prepare for what was coming next. Great Elder, the Primal Chaos Tablet, appeared in the Battle of Zhualu this time. I wonder if young Palace Master had a breakthrough? All the elders looked at Lan Borong. This was what they were most concerned about. In the Lan family's history, it was recorded that the Primal Chaos Tablet and the Rainbow God Pearl were inextricably linked. As long as one entered the Primal Chaos Tablet's origin world, the Rainbow God Pearl would be upgraded. Therefore, they had high hopes for Lan Qingyan this time. Although the Lan clan's ranking this time was very bad, as long as Lan Qingyan's Rainbow Divine Pearl improved, then it was worth it. Lan Borong sighed. Young Master is in a bad mood now. He didn't say much along the way, and I didn't ask. Let's wait until young Master calms down before asking. I believe the Patriarch and Master Kuang should know. Hearing Lan Borong's words, the group of elders all nodded. They knew Lan Qingyan's temperament better than anyone else. Only the clan head and Lan Jingquang could convince her wholeheartedly. They just had to report this matter to the family head and Master Kuang. Since Limitless Palace's young palace master Bailey Hongzhuang obtained first place, then 3 months later, when the icy snow god's pond opens, she will come. I want to see how capable this Bailey Hongzhuang is. The dissatisfaction between second elder's brows did not dissipate. This Bailey Hongzhuang was really too much. She actually made their young palace master kowtow and apologize in front of everyone. This was really intolerable. Chapter 2498. Lan Borong looked at the dissatisfied expressions of the elders and felt a little helpless in his heart. He wasn't dissatisfied with Bailey Hongzhuang. On the contrary, Bailey Hongzhuang was a remarkable existence for being able to achieve such results at such a young age. Most importantly, Bailey Hongzhuang had that person's shadow on her. Even if Bailey Hongzhuang wasn't related to Lan Yunxiao, he couldn't dislike Bailey Hongzhuang. Moreover, he felt that they were too similar. If they weren't related by blood, it was impossible for them to be so similar. He must report this matter to the head of the family as soon as possible. If Bailey Hongzhuang really was that child, then all of this would be incredible. After leaving the meeting hall, Lan Borong headed for the house head's residence without hesitation. The house head had been in seclusion all these years. As long as there wasn't a big problem, he wouldn't appear. In fact, the house head had always been brooding over Lan Yunxiao's matter. The elder's actions had greatly disappointed the head of the family. Most importantly, the head of the family did not want to see Lan Jingquang again. When the incident happened, the house head was in seclusion. It was a crucial moment for him to break through his bottleneck. At that time, Lan Jingquang probably knew that the house head wouldn't come out to deal with this matter, so he chose that time to act. By the time the house head came out of seclusion and found out, Lan Yunxiao and his family had already disappeared. At that time, he was heartbroken by Lan Jingquang's actions. Unfortunately, Lan Jingquang had already colluded with Second Elder and the other elders. No matter how much he objected, it was useless. Lan Yunxiao and Mu Lingbing could no longer tolerate it under such circumstances, and he could only watch helplessly as it happened without being able to do anything about it. This matter wasn't just a pain in the house head's heart. It was also an unspeakable pain in his heart. The house head had angrily reprimanded Lan Jingquang and severely punished him. Unfortunately, he couldn't find any trace of Lan Yunxiao. Even though so much time had passed, he knew that the house head had never given up. No matter what the outcome was, he needed to discuss this matter with the house leader. He could not tell Lan Jingquang's people. Otherwise, who knew what kind of trouble would ensue? If Bailey Hongzhuang was really the child from back then, they had already let her down at that time. They absolutely could not let that kind of thing happen again. Not long after, Lan Borong appeared in front of the patriarch. Seeing Lan Borong's arrival, Lan Hongtai's expression was indifferent as he said, "You're here." Even though Lan Hongtai was just standing there quietly, the aura and authority of a superior had already been displayed. It could be said that he was born with it. If Lan Yunxiao saw the current Lan Hongtai, he would notice that compared to 19 years ago, the corners of Lan Hongtai's eyes had traces of wind and frost. His sharp eyes also revealed some helplessness and sorrow. Lan Borong bowed to Lan Hongtai, patriarch. Lan Hongtai nodded slightly. Qing Yin and the others have returned. How are the results? He no longer cared about many things in the Lan family, but the power was still in his hands. He had no way of handing over the enormous Lan family to Lan Jingquang. This kind of ambitious person would even harm his own brothers. He was simply inhuman. Chapter 2499. Although it was a question, Lan Hongtai didn't pay much attention to it. Lan Borong shook his head and said, Qing Yin met an unexpected opponent in the Battle of Zhuolu. Her right arm was crippled, which affected her strength. As a result, we only ranked 20th. Lan Hongtai couldn't help but frown. Our Lan family hasn't encountered such a situation for many years. What kind of extraordinary seedling has appeared in the younger generation? The results of the Battle of Zhuolu would affect the family's development in the next few years. Therefore, Lan Hongtai's expression couldn't help but change when he learned that the Lan family's ranking was so poor. The young palace master of Wuji Palace, Bailey Hongzhuang. She is very powerful and has never appeared as the young palace master of Wuji Palace before. This time, Bailey Hongzhuang won first place in the Battle of Zhuolu when she led Wuji Palace's team. She also won first place in the individual competition. Lan Borong's voice was filled with admiration and admiration. Although the relationship between Wuji Palace and the Lan family wasn't good, Bailey Hongzhuang's results were praiseworthy in anyone's eyes. Hearing Lan Borong's words, Lan Hongtai's gaze deepened as he looked into the distance, as if he was recalling the past. When Yun Xiao led his team to participate in the Battle of Zhuolu for the first time, he also achieved such good results. Unfortunately, after Yin Xiao left, our Lan family never won again. Lan Hongtai's voice was filled with nostalgia and sadness. Lan Yin Xiao was the son he was most proud of. Not only was he powerful, but he also cultivated diligently and was extremely friendly. Therefore, Lan Yin Xiao easily won the respect of the entire family. At such a young age, he had already established his position as the young master, and no one could shake him. When Lan Yin Xiao was the young master, the Lan family had gradually grown stronger under his leadership. Lan Hongtai couldn't help but think that if Lan Yin Xiao was still alive, the Lan family would be in a much more prosperous state now. Then, this old man would be able to cultivate in peace and ignore worldly affairs. Ever since they were young, Lan Yin Xiao had always been sensible and was Lan Hongtai's greatest pride. It was a pity that he couldn't even protect his own son and let his granddaughter suffer such a great grievance. Although he had always been proud of Lan Yin Xiao, he had never overlooked Lan Jingquang. He didn't expect Lan Jingquang to do such a deranged thing. He was simply a beast. He had once wanted to kill this bastard with his own hands, but all the elders in the clan had stopped him. He only had 2 sons, Lan Yunxiao and Lan Jingquang. If both of them died, then there would be no one to take over the position of househead. In fact, he didn't care about these things at all. He only wanted to get rid of that unfilial son with his own hands. However, as the head of an aristocratic family, he couldn't be stubborn. At least, as long as he didn't hand over the position of the head of the family, no one would dare to have the slightest objection. Lan Borong looked at Lan Hongtai, who couldn't help but feel sad at the mention of Lan Yinxiao. That scene back then was really nostalgic. Patriarch, I actually discovered something during the Battle of Zhuolu, but I can't confirm it, Lan Borong said slowly. After seeing Lan Hongtai's sad appearance, he couldn't help but wonder if he should tell Lan Hongtai the news.